about chess.com and your involvement with them, and maybe like how you got into chess and how long you've been playing, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. I make videos and do live shows, kind of like what you do, except only chess. I do that for chess.com, but I've been with them pretty much since the beginning. One of the lucky few to be there from the ground up, and officially my title is vice president, but that basically means I write emails. Otherwise, I play chess. And I got involved playing chess when I was 10. My grandpa was sick. We played chess to keep him busy over the summer. And then our school started a program, and it kind of took off from a small community, which allowed us to just a really intimate environment. And I think our coaches and parents had a lot of influence because of that. We weren't distracted by much from a small town. You could say that allowed them to abuse us into chess, or just the fact that they gave us the opportunity and we didn't have much distraction. However you want to look at it, depends on whether I'm in therapy or not. But my parents were pretty intense, honestly. I mean, and then I had a Russian coach, Igor Ivanov, who was well known at the time as one of the world's strongest, maybe the strongest international master for a very long time. I mean, the guy had beaten Karpov and Kasparov, but he was also a raging, abusive alcoholic, and our chess lessons were very intense. And I think back about it.
I'm sorry, where did you grow up again? I missed that part.
I grew up in Payson, Arizona, small town.
Oh, okay.
And the school was the Shelby School, which was a private school that eventually earned a charter. So now it's a charter / public school, but not quite what it used to be. But at the time, it was a private school, and we brought in Igor as a chess coach after a few years of us doing very well, our whole team on like a scholastic level. And then Igor was brought in to help those who were really training to become really good, and I was kind of the one who took it the farthest. Competed in many U.S. junior championships, and at 19, I was the highest rated player in the country under 21 besides Hikaru Nakamura. But then I took a couple years off. I actually had some health issues. I had some issues with my ears, and I couldn't travel, and I like to think I got cut down in my prime, But anyway, I was an international master still, and about 2480 then. I'm international master about 2490 USCF now, so not much has changed over the last 10 years. But besides chess.com,
you and me both, buddy.
Hey,
I've been about
that's
1500 rated for the past 10 years. So.
Right. So
I'd like to think we're in the same boat, evenly matched.
You are. I think in chess, sometimes people think in chess that there's some sort of magical recipe to getting better as once you've reached a certain point, but it pretty much never stops. In fact, the more you learn, the harder it gets, and the more abusive chess is. So, but it's great.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about what exactly? How significant is the jump from international master to grandmaster? How, like, if a grandmaster and an international master were to play 100 games, what would be an approximation of how many times a grandmaster should be expected to win?
Well, obviously it's going to vary based on the specific IM or GM, right? I mean, there are international masters who, for lack of a better way to put it, maybe just either just never pursued it as fully as when they had the opportunity to get the GM title, but maybe play at a GM level strength. The process is this. The process is just like getting an IM. International Master and Grandmaster are the two highest titles in chess, and because they're the only permanent titles you can really get that aren't just based on rating. They're also based on your performance in a certain level type of event. So a category.
Right. It was Nicholas just told me about this, about how there's grandmaster norms and
right. So what you do is, in addition to having to achieve the rating, which of course is the best measurement of your overall and consistent strength, is whatever your rating is coming in at. So you got to be about 2,500 to be IM, 26 to be GM. But not just in order to get that, but you also have to perform in tournaments that you get what's called a performance norm. And so they're difficult to get because basically in order to get them, you usually have to outperform like what the IM rating is. Let's say an average IM is rated between 2,400 and 2,450. To get a norm, your performance often has to come in around 2,550 or higher. So you have to play really well in an international category, a high category tournament. And you have to do that 3 times. So they do that to ensure that someone is not just good consistently against lower
Sure.
competition, but can also perform against the best. And so apply that same apply that same sauce to getting a GM, and it's just that much harder. But so to answer your question, I mean, I think probably on average the answer would be 65-35. Like 65% of the time a GM should win, but I think that depending on the IM or GM, it can be closer to 45-55.
Interesting.
And then of course if you separate it even further and put an IM against one of the super GMs, which there's been lobbying to even add a new title past GM like Super GM, because the guys that are north of 2,700, you'd look at that's going to be closer to 75-25, if not like even higher. The best players in the world would beat an IM north of 85% of the time. So
sure, that makes sense. Well, what do you say you and me jump into some games here? Are we able to do any kind of handicapped games on chess, or is it just hey, Bucher, thanks for subscribing for 16 months in a row, pal. Are we able to do any kind of handicaps?
We can do time handicaps right now. We can do piece handicaps, but what I would need to know is let's see, I would need to have one of my teammates help me out here because I'm not set up in staff mode to set up the position. But so we can.
No. That's okay. That's all right. We can do the time handicaps, and then we can just kind of play around until we find something that maybe makes us evenly matched.
Okay. And we it looks like we have some people watching your stream actually from chess.com. So, but anyway, no. Let's start with the time handicap, and I can also do the blindfold chess handicap and record it locally where I'm playing blindfolded and you're not, which might be fun.
Okay. Well, let's. How about this? Would this be fun? What if we did 10 minutes versus 10 minutes to start off with, and every time you beat me, we just keep going lower.
Okay.
And then maybe we can find a time in there, like maybe the 10-1 I can beat you. But
Right.
I'd like to see how I stack up. Just a regular 10-minute game here.
All right. Cool, man.
All right. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave this TeamSpeak room for now, and then I'll come back after the match, and then we'll do like a post-mortem if you want.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. Go ahead and challenge me to a 10-minute game, and then I'll accept that, and then we'll just start.
All right. Gotcha. Here we go.
User left your channel.
All right. Well, that was fun. A little bit of a conversation with Hutch, who invited me to come on his show. I know this is a little bit of a different format for all those of you who normally follow my channel and just chess.com stuff. Maybe you didn't know all that information about me. And either way, I'm going to go challenge Hutch here. Looking for him. Where is he? Huh. All right. And the game has started against the almighty Hutch. The one and only. Oh, and the game has been aborted. So I rematched him. Looks like.
Hey Daniel, do you? Is there a way we can do this where it doesn't affect my rating?
Oh yeah.
Because how do you? Is
Hold
that
on a second. So
something
did you abort this one?
I did. Yeah. I just.
All right. Let me do it. 1 sec.
Okay.
I will.
Because otherwise, I'm going to end the day at like 1200. I'm not really trying to do that.
I hear you. All right, hold on. Here we go. And I don't know. You get one game and you gain all the rating points. So, but there you go.
Well, let's just see how this goes. How about that?
Okay, wait. Did it not start? Okay, hold on 1 second.
I don't think it started.
1 second.
It has not.
Did that work? No. Sorry, I mistyped your name.
That's all right. There's an I in front of the M.
No, I dropped the Y like an idiot. There you go. Now we're rocking it. That's unrated.
Oh, I don't think I got that.
I think the game already started.
Oh, it did. It did. Okay. All right. I'll be back in just a moment here.
All right, cool.
User left your channel.
All right, everybody. This should be fun. The nice thing about this stream here is you do get the PG version with me. Not that I have any issues with curse words, but of course we try to keep the chess.com channels as family friendly as possible. Hutch broadcasts to a different demographic, right? A little bit of a different criteria, but he's awesome and hilarious, and certainly he is really loves chess and loves our site. We love that he plays on the site. So, all right, so he played this bishop to g5 in the Nimzo early, and okay, one of the normal things you want to do is put the knight on f3 if you're going to go into this line first, but we'll talk about it here after I play the system that I think best exposes the dark square bishop for leaving behind the queen side. But now there's actually a fun way to play, which is to sack a queen and take on d5, takes there, take c3, the queen moves, and you go for these long, it's a whole long force combination that picks up some material for the queen as compensation. Not necessarily the best line for black, not guaranteeing that it's a win or anything, but it is a very interesting one. And I'm sure this is going to be exciting for his fans, because not every day you have somebody just go to queen sack town. But okay, unfortunately, he's blundering right back. The correct move was queen to b3, which would allow me to complete the combination of moving the knight with a discovered check and winning f2 and h1. But in that scenario, he's got the queen, and I've got a bunch of pieces. In this scenario, unfortunately, I'm just up 2 pawns straight. So I think the best thing to do is to rematch at a different time. We'll see what he wants to do.
User joined.
I thought about playing that out, and then I was like, nah, I'm good.
So real quick, so this line is actually fine for you. It's not necessarily a great queen sack for black, but on move 7, you have to play queen to b3 instead of b takes c3.
I lost the board, so I can't see what you're talking about. Say it one more time. I think I can put it together in my head if you say.
So after I took the knight on c3 after you took my queen, you took back with the pawn, which allowed me to take with check, and then I. Oh. But if you move the queen,
okay, yeah.
It ends up going for this sort of complicated line where I'm down a queen, but you have I've got some compensation, so that's the best thing to do. If you want, one thing we can do is as soon as the game is over, we can analyze it, and I can invite you to the board so you can see the pieces as I move the pieces, if you want.
Oh yeah, yeah. You can, if you can invite me to the board, that'd be great. Yeah.
All right, hold on a second. I'm gonna
after we do this next game.
Yeah, let's do everything. So what do we want to do? Like drop a minute?
Yeah, let's drop a minute. Let's just keep dropping a minute.
So when the game starts, it'll start out 10-0, and then you'll see that I get docked a minute.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Does that sound good?
That sounds perfect. Yep. I'll wait for that invite.
All right. Well,
User left your channel.
Okay, here we go. All right, so let's play King's Indian against him now. Mix it up a little bit for his sake. Provide some better instruction. Next game, I'll give myself white. This is fun. The almighty Hutch, the legendary Hutch. So he puts the bishop on d3, which is not a bad place to put the bishop. It often is a place, not necessarily inexperienced, but people who don't know opening theory, but know they need to get their pieces developed and control the center, which I don't know how much theory Hutch knows. It is a line if you know the theory, but often people play it for the reason I'm about to describe, which is simply that the bishop here holds the center and makes you feel more secure about the center. The problem is it actually disconnects the queen's control over the d-file, and after I play e5, which is sort of a typical shot in the center in the King's Indian, it's not like the bishop has a very bright future on d3. That doesn't mean it's a bad piece. One of the things that people misunderstand is the classical bad bishop is a bishop that's stuck by pawns, and you think, oh no, it's stuck, it can't go anywhere. But actually, sometimes those pieces are very important in terms of holding the overall formation together. So his bishop isn't a great or active piece here, but it does hold the position together. Even so, I'd say that this is probably not the best place for the bishop. Because on e2, it basically holds the structure together in the same way. But but also has some other options like the d3 square is sometimes used for the knight, the d file stays open for the queen, those sort of things. So now that he goes for this right away, I have an option. Should I do like a Petrosian idea, try to play a5 to support b4 and then bring my pony into c5? Or do I say nay and continue with a more traditional like King's Indian attack? I feel like because his bishop on d3 might find a way to be justified if I open the tension here, that maybe bringing the knight to c5 a la Petrosian style is actually makes a little more sense. So let's see how that goes. So now's a good example of what I was talking about. I'm going to play knight c5, and he might just play b4 thinking, wow, that guy wasted several moves with the knight just to take a bad bishop on d3. But actually, that bishop is important because what are the critical points that black is going to try to pry open? It's e4 and c4, and those are squares the bishop guards. So he actually understands that, and he brings the bishop back to c2. He knows that that bishop is valuable even if it's not a very active piece, which is good. That's good chess by Hutch there. So now that I've established some protection of my pony here, the question is, do I go back for plans with f5? Probably I should. So I'll go ahead and bring this knight to h5 with the intention of doing just that. The reason I go to h5 rather than, for example, e8, if you're wondering, is that in a lot of these positions, I think dynamically, if you put the knight on f4 and invite them to give up the dark square bishop and open up this, these days black gets... That seems to be, you know, the best way for black to approach these positions a lot of the time. I'll play b6, invite him to take it. If he's smart, I think here he'll play b4. And, yeah, so he understands that it's not in his favor to trade either bishop for either one of my knights and allow me to close his counterplay even more. He wants to keep those pieces on the board. And in doing so, he should be able to get his queenside play going. So he's playing well here so far. I'm probably going to put my knight on f4 at some point and either invite him to give up the dark square bishop, see if he wants to part with that beautiful piece, or go f5. One of the risks to f5 is he can take, and move the knight here with the queen and unleash here. So if f5 takes, knight e5, I'd have to be able to take with the bishop, and if he takes here, do I win a piece? Sort of risky, right? Because I'm also opening my own king. He decides to just put the knight on b5. Not a bad idea, I guess. He understands that he wants play on the queen side, and I can't really kick that pony out. Plus, again, if I play f5, takes, knight takes. If I take and he wins the knight on h5 with the queen, I'm not sure that I really want that rook on e1 and opening up my own king, a1. So I'm going to put my knight on f4. Invite him to either give up the dark square bishop or to play g3, which could gain just like a full tempo for him, right? If I have to go back to h5, he just gained like a whole extra move. But it also weakens the king a little bit, right? So he goes for this, and he's trying to kind of call my bluff here. Maybe his intention is to take f4 and try to win the pawn. Seems a little risky for him. Even winning that pawn, clearly, if I'm not winning the rook on a1, may not be in his interest. Some of you will be wondering, where am I today? This is my regular office, just no green screen behind me. You see the chess books there, right? You see, you know, a picture of Caspi. That's a signed by Gary Kasparov himself, right? So that's a little valuable. One of my prized possessions. And now now I should be a little more careful than that. I'm gonna put the knight here. I think I have good options though. If I put the bishop there and he takes, I can also take with tempo first. So both would seem decent. But I feel like there's no reason to trade at this time just yet. I might like that bishop on c8 for other purposes. So now I'm gonna bring my bishop to g4 next. If you're just watching this video now, I mean, you're wondering what this is. This is a battle against the Almighty Hutch. I'm gonna have a link here to check out Hutch's channel, Hutch's stream. You can subscribe to his Twitch channel. He's pretty well known in the video gaming streaming community. He's got 250,000 followers on Twitter, a lot of subscribers to his Twitch channel, and he's a lover of chess. He makes love, not war. Except on the chessboard. He tries to make war. But anyway, he's a cool guy, and you can check out his channel. I'm playing him. The goal of here was we were going to start with 10 versus 10, so he can see how he stacks up against an international master on even odds. And then with every game I win, I lose a minute. So this game was 10 versus 9. Every game I win, we're going to lose a minute and keep the stream going and see how that goes. like I said, a little bit of a different setup for those of you who regularly subscribe to the video channel. But let me know how you like it. How you like the big webcam and the full view of the notation and everything that comes with it. So G3 again was kind of bad maybe for other reasons. All right, so he plays knight to A4. Knight to H4. I'm sorry. Duh. You know, it would be really fun. I'd love to sack my queen on H4 and then get the bishop on F3 and play knight H3 checkmate. That's the kind of thing that I get excited about. There aren't many things that get me that excited. That's one of them. Checkmating with a knight and bishop after having sacked the queen. One of the things that gets me excited in life. He's not actually threatening to take on F4, but he is maybe threatening to play F3 here. So the other option is, do I take on B4, play rook A2, and pin the bishop to the king? If he plays F3, I move the bishop with tempo. He moves the rook, and how do I continue the attack? I love the rook on the 7th rank, on the 2nd rank, you know, not only pinning the bishop, but with eyes on the king. It's a really good, it feels good to have that. And taking on D1 may give up a bishop that's really kind of useful for my attack. So I'm going to go all in here. I'm going to take on B4 and try to have full board awareness, as I preach to my students. Full board awareness. Don't be locked into one area. Recognize how your pieces have their potential, their most potential to play together on the full board. So I'm going to take there with that idea in mind. Maybe he's calculating that he doesn't want... He wants to save the exchange so badly, he's willing to play F3 and maybe give me another pawn. I don't know. He probably thinks that if he takes back, if I take here, now I'm up the exchange and I've opened a file for the rook. But if I wanted to do that, I could have taken the exchange and then opened the file second. So if I was him, I would probably just take back and kind of see what I'm going to do. Yeah, so he goes for it. And again, I follow through with my plan. I'm not necessarily thrilled about the idea of giving up my light square bishop. Although now maybe I should have been. That seems fairly obvious that he was going to play that move. Fairly obvious that he was going to play that move, actually. And I'm not thrilled with the decisions I've made. To be quite honest. This whole thing seems so awkward for me now. Well, I'm going to keep the attack going. The biggest risk here, I think, is if he plays F3. I take H4. Okay, he didn't. But if I had taken H4, he takes G4, I may have had to sack on G3. I wasn't exactly sure how great that it would be for me. So he's going to play the bishop to D1 next. It makes sense. He's patiently waiting for his defensive chances, right? But I can actually play bishop f3 because if he goes for that, I'll take on e4 at least right away. So he's going to have to guard e4 first. But he doesn't. He decides he can risk it. He's played very well. He's played very well overall. Defended all the obvious threats. Perhaps I should have taken the exchange when I had the chance after his bad g3 move. But I felt like I had more potential for an attack than obviously maybe I did. So that's the truth. That's the truth as far as why I did what I did. And now he's putting a little bit of a hurt on me here. That's the truth. So he takes it. I'm going to go take the rook. I get the exchange that I didn't get a while ago. But I don't know if I'm thrilled about it anyway, right? I mean, that rook, the bishop on A1 is kind of out of play. I feel like I need to stay aggressive and risk that he might take H5 and be able to get some play against my open king here. I'm going to save this guy now. Worried about that knight on H3. I sure am. Yeah, I really think I messed this up trying for too much against Hutch. Focused on all the educational stuff. I wasn't maybe playing my best chess. That move didn't make a lot of sense. I don't know where he was going with that, honestly. No reason to make that sack. He could have even played knight to d4 and tried to come to c6 instead, right? Which is, and if I give up the dark square bishop, then he has permanent compensation. What's he doing? He's just he's going crazy, right? He just went Gnarls Barkley on this, and you better believe I think he's crazy. Yeah, then he resigns after his own.
User joined your channel.
I forgot your bishop was there covering. My idea was to push this pawn and then swing my knight or my
queen into h6.
My queen over. Yeah, but I completely forgot your bishop was watching that.
Got it. Well, hold on. Let me try to analyze it and invite you to the board. I'm gonna try to figure that out.
The game just went so downhill so fast.
Man,
I thought my position was fine for a while.
You played fantastic. I'm doing a little bit of commentary on my side, so afterwards you can see all of my in-action opinions. But the truth is, I thought you played really well.
Thanks. That's good to hear.
I probably should have taken the exchange, I guess. But hold on, so what you're gonna get right now is you're gonna get an invite to analyze the game with me.
Okay, let me turn the board off real quick.
Yeah, you can close out of the game, and I'm going to invite you to the analysis.
List. Okay.
So here it's I'm looking how to do this real quick.
Now you got something to take to your engineers at chess.com.
Yeah, I really do, because that was way more difficult than it should have been. You should have gotten an invite though.
There it is. Yeah, I got it. Oh, there it is. Yeah. All right, I can put this on then. Boom.
Okay, so if I move the pieces, can you follow it?
Yeah. Yep. It's following it. Yep.
Okay. So let's go through this.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, and it supposed to be a lot easier than that, but that was dysfunctional. So anyway, but I'm using our brand new software here, but you played the King's Indian fine.
So right here before I played knight f3, I was also attempted to play my patented tsunami opening, which is f4.
Right.
Can you is that a bad opening?
No, it's the 4 pawns attack. It's actually. It's playable. It's super dynamic in that you're obviously sacrificing development to be really aggressive. But if you do manage to keep control over the critical breakthroughs like e5 and c5, you can win a lot of games really fast with this.
You're blowing my mind with these yellow and red arrows on the screen here.
Oh,
This
you're
is a really
digging
cool
it?
feature. I like this. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Well, the analysis feature is going to get better and better. So this is something we could do, and if we ever did this again. So Black's idea is to try to undermine what you're doing would be to break with c5 and e5 to try to expose the potentially weak dark squares back here. So it is risky if Black knows that. I mean, I'll give a quick just sort of. This isn't even the best, but I just want to give a kamikaze example just to show you that even an immediate e5 with a crazy sacrifice clearly shows that there is potential for these to be exposed. And if I pick up the e5 pawn, you'll end up in a position where the dark squares have been weakened and this guy is isolated on the e file. But here I've sacrificed the ability to get castles.
Wait, no, I've lost it. I'm not following it on the screen anymore. It stopped.
Oh, really? Can you see me now?
Yeah. Oh, now it did something. Just did something there.
But it's back. So you can you see?
There you go. Now I can see that. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm showing you this queen trade line.
Oh, I see.
And so the point is that if Black tries aggressively to open up and expose the dark squares, he does lose the right to castle. May not be great for me. But the overall goal, if you're going to play this, would be... I'll put it this way. You want to know the lines in this even more than you would in what you played, like the classical here.
Okay.
Because here you can complete your development and let the plan develop a little more naturally without there being immediate dynamic tactics. Whereas if you play f4 and someone challenges you with either an immediate e5 or c5, the position becomes very sharp.
Okay.
So, but okay, what you did was good. Can you see that I'm going through our game now?
Yeah, this is just the King's Indian, right?
Yeah, just traditional King's Indian. You'll see the video. I give some comments on Bishop d3. I think the bishop is a little better on e2. And if you want to see what I said later, you can. But basically, one thing to
I'll check that out. Yeah.
It's just to be aware that often when we're developing into a big a space advantage, it feels like we should put our pieces as close to the big pawn center as possible, right? It feels like we want to. This is obviously more active than this, but it's not always true. And in fact, because in the King's Indian structure, you end up with a very closed center, sometimes the bishop is actually a target here, and you don't want to lose that bishop to a knight trade, which you correctly decided later not to let me do. And I gave you kudos for that in the video because I felt like you had a pretty good understanding of what you wanted to do. And
let's go a little bit farther in the position here and see.
Okay, yeah. So here you had a good understanding that this was not a trade, and I talked about that this was not a trade you wanted to make. Some people might look at this and say, "Oh, this is a bad bishop blocked by pawns," but it's actually a very important piece, and you knew that, so you kept the bishop. I tried to solidify my knight. And I felt like things were going just fine for both sides. Again, you correctly knew that this was not a trade you wanted to make. You played b4. This is all accurate. In fact, I liked your position here. I thought you were doing great.
You think the knight is good on b? I was thinking that the knight was good on b5 towards the end of the game because the c7 pawn was looking a little weak. If I could have swung my rook down there when I had control of that file and started attacking that, I had plans to counterattack on the queen side before it all just kind of fell apart there.
No, and I think that's exactly what you should be doing in a King's Indian. I mean, Black has the the spear facing this way, and I'm going to try to do this, and you should be using your space advantage to essentially do the same thing on the queen side.
Yeah.
And c7 is the base of the whole pawn chain, so it's absolutely a critical weakness. So everything you just described is you have a good understanding of the position. What I would say is the only risk of knight to b5 is this: the move that's sort of the catalyst to you getting all the counterplay you could ever dream of is going to be c5. So if you're not able to get c5 and get the c file open and get all the pieces where they want to be, then the knight on b5 may not get the help it needs. And so one thing you might consider in order to make that happen is that in some positions you can even just, probably not here because you don't want me to take the knight, but in many positions you want to strive for this move to happen as fast as possible and open up play over there. So that would have been another thing I would have considered.
Interesting. So would you say that White's position in games like the King's Indian are more focused on attacking on the queen side? Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely a big generalization, but it is true that's where your space advantage is. And think of the pawn structure like it's like swimming with the river. Yes, you can attack against the flow of your pawn chain, but it's so much harder to swim upstream. Whereas my piece is flowing this way, have all the open lines and diagonals they already need to find active squares, and active squares lead to better tactics, and better tactics lead to material, and blah, 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 right? So unlocking chess is all about developing into the position where you're playing to your strengths and not your weaknesses. So
okay, let's keep going with the game here.
Okay, so here we go. So knight f4 is what I played. I like this move, but I'm now curious where I went wrong. So I liked your position totally up until this. I feel like as soon as you played this move, you were giving up on what you needed to be striving for, which was this. The moment you
I didn't like your discovered attack on my rook. Like if I wanted to take your knight off this board here, I know
you were worried about this.
Yeah, I had concerns about a discovered attack, and I just didn't really want to worry about it.
My opinion would be that you pretty much almost never want to give up your dark square bishop for my knight anyway, and this bishop is right where it needs to be. This bishop is right where it needs to be for everything. Yeah. So I would say that I understand. In fact, I kind of said in the commentary, I was like, yeah, he's probably worried about the discovery, but I think your rook is where it needs to be, your bishop is where it needs to be, and you just need to cash in. You need to be aggressive on the queen side.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So whatever. So I apologize if I'm going on too many tangents. Just trying to give you. No.
It's fine. No, it's fine. Yeah, I appreciate the analysis. If I ever hurry you up, it's just because I just want the viewers to watch some chess. But I am enjoying this analysis quite a bit.
Cool. So all right. So rook to d1 and g3 were really just the back-to-back mistakes that you made, and I think I failed a little bit to convert. Again, I felt like c5 was really the key, but this move allowing the pin and then g3 weakening the knight it's like I said, it's like heading the wrong direction. You're headed in the opposite direction of where you need to be, which is over here.
Yeah.
So
I didn't even realize. Yeah, those two back-to-back moves just really just set that pin up for you.
Right.
And that pin is a pain in the ass, by the way. There's no easy way to deal with that.
No, and I think you made the best decision. And again, I think at this point I was kind of getting a little confident. I was like, all right, well, okay, I'm going to win the exchange. I should win this game. But from here on out, you also defended phenomenally. So I think it's probably a blunder that I don't just grab the material I've gotten from your mistakes. But here's what I looked at. I thought if I take, even if I try to open up my rook, because now I have two rooks and you don't, I was like, what's my next move? Like, where's my plan? You actually have this bishop here. And even though, like, what is my next move here? If I move this knight, you might take and double my pawns. If I move this knight, then you can win a piece because I'm no longer getting...
Where would you even move that f knight to? Oh,
I mean, maybe h3 check or... I mean, yeah, but it's very difficult. And anyway, so this is why I didn't take the rook. So as much as I do think this and g3 were a mistake, as soon as you played this, I was like, I don't really want to give up my bishop.
Yeah.
So anyway, but we would both probably figure out what the real answer is if we analyzed it with a computer, but we don't care about that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I decided, I was like thinking I was being all brilliant. I'm like, I'll keep this and I'll just do this. And then the moment you played this, I was like, oh crap. I was like, now he frees the exchange and he's trading rooks, and I think you might be better here now. I think your position might be better.
When you took the pawn on b4, I figured that you would swing your rook down to a2 after that.
Right.
And once I swung my rook over there, I said, I might not actually be bad on this queen side if I can get these rooks off the board, because where are you going to go with this rook now?
No, I mean, I think I have to trade.
Yeah.
And I've sort of failed to cash in on what the last several moves have seemingly like favored black, and you were in trouble with the pin. I sort of failed to do something concrete, and so I tried to keep going with the attack. I thought I would take, but again, I think you played good moves. Another move you could have considered was f3 here and sort of call my bluff about all these hanging pieces.
But then your queen. I feel like your queen's coming in there pretty soon.
Well, the key line is
because I got these dark squares there.
Yeah, well, the key line though is that you don't actually take back here; you take here instead. That's the idea of this. So now I have everybody hanging.
Okay.
So the key is that, and this is what I was worried about, is that if you had played this and I take, you actually take this one, and I don't know. I think my best might be to try to like sack a piece, but I'm not actually threatening anything. You can just like come up and like. I mean, even if I get the queen here.
And your knight's still pretty... I mean, I guess your knight's in a good... Well, never mind. It's not hanging or anything. Yeah, I was really...
you might be right. Maybe.
As soon as I got distracted by what was going on the queen side, and I abandoned my hopes to getting that rook down at a a7, then
Yeah.
Things just kind of fell apart for me. You want to jump into a new game here?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's get a new game going.
So
Yeah.
now it's going to be 8 to 10, yeah?
8 to 10. All right. The stakes, the plot thickens, as they say. All right, hold on. Let me start the game.
Is the game going to start, or am I going to get an invite? I can't remember what you did last time.
I'm just going to start. I'm just going to start the game.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm going to move to the other channel. I'll hop in for the post-mortem.
Go ahead, man.
User left your channel.
All right, so we got a Caro-Kann here, huh? The I Mighty Hutch plays a Caro-Kann. All right, we'll play a Panov Botvinnik, because even though it's hard to keep analyzing and not push things along for the viewers when we do get to the post-mortem with Hutch's fan base. I wonder how many viewers he has right now, by the way. But I'll ask a friend of mine, because I'm not watching his show. Although I could actually be. I could watch his show if I chose to. Watch his show on the other... But no, I won't. All right. So I play a Panov Botvinnik, which is to invite an isolated queen pawn. What I was saying is that if we do get time for some analysis, the IQP pawns are generally very rich of interesting chess concepts. So, he might learn something, which he might appreciate. So, so we continue. I play knight to c3. Generally, it's not the best to put this knight here first rather than the other knight to f6. This position is probably just going to transpose, honestly, to a pretty traditional IQP kind of structure here. Isolated queen pawn as soon as he takes on c4. So no real big mistakes have been made by anybody. I'm wondering if it's not the ideal development for him. One of the options I have here, if I want, is to play c5 because of that, and then try to get that structure. But I feel like if I was going to do so, I probably needed to play c5 here to threaten bishop to b5. Yeah. So now I'm gonna just develop and try to invite him to take on c4 and gain a tempo on my bishop, and we'll just head to a regular isolated queen pawn position. One of the real advantages for those watching this video in the post-mortem, as Hutch joins us from time to time, is that I'll back up and show you, is that if you can get this structure with c5, you have 3 pawns versus 2. So you have c5, b2, a2 versus these two. So if he doesn't get the right control over the center where he has a 5-on-4, but his is a little held back, then I have a very big advantage on the queen side, and I can even play bishop b5 and try to take on c6 and really kind of shut down the queen side to give my pawn majority a big advantage. So that's one of the ideas behind this Panov Botvinnik structure, is not to go for the IQP, but to expand and get the space advantage on the queen side. But that's not going to happen in this game. I'm just going to back up the bishop and now get cackled. Rekarovka. And the question for him is, how does he want to play to develop the queen side, right? So he may not want to take here and go for an isolated queen pawn structure, but honestly, if he takes there and plays b6 and bishop b7, that's probably the best development he can hope for this bishop, because putting it on d7 is clearly sort of a passive piece and blocks the center. My moves play themselves. That's one of the advantages here, is I'm just going to play like rook to c1 and rook e1 and put some of the pieces in the center. Okay, that's interesting. Knight to b4 is interesting. Not a bad move at all, maybe. Because if I move, now he can take on c4 and then get both knights to d5, and that's actually pretty ideal in terms of an IQP. So I'm actually not going to let him take on c4 anymore so that he gets both of his knights coordinated on d5. Instead, I'm going to play the Panov push, because with the loss of the bishop pair, I actually complete my development, connect the rooks as soon as my queen takes back. And with complete control over e5, that's how this structure does its most damage, is with him not being able to break open the dark squares and undermine it, essentially, as I said, use his majority, the 5-on-4, then white's advantage is pretty clear in these positions. In fact, if he takes d3, queen takes, I'm going to get b4, a4, really expand on the queen side. This bishop might fall back to this diagonal here, which could be, right, kind of irritating for him. I'm just going to back that thing up. Just like my mama taught me, right? Shake what my mama gave me. And just keep control over that critical diagonal. And he kind of recognizes that he doesn't want to lose control of e5, but unfortunately that means he's just lost a tempo. So now I'll go try to just threaten b4 here. Just b4, b5, and he's going to experience what the issues are with letting somebody get a Panov structure, which again is this c5 push, the 3-on-2, without being able to undermine it. You really can't allow this kind of space advantage for white in the Caro-Kann because you've lost your c-pawn very early, which means this is what we call a pretender, a pawn with nobody in front of it. Is it a pass pawn yet? No, but there's not a lot stopping it from becoming a pass pawn, and that's the thing. I actually have knight to b5 here because of a6, bishop c7. If he moves the queen, I have knight d6. If he moves to e7, I play bishop to d6 and then knight to c7. Seems like kind of a mess for him, right? But the other thing is he really threatening anything if I just move the bishop and guard it? I guess he kind of is. So I'm going to say, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's bring our knight in to one of these squares, back our bishop up to c2 next. In hindsight, it's possible that instead of rook to b1, a3 was better. It does the same idea of supporting b4, the pawn on a3 does, but it also stops him from playing knight to b4. Why is that important? Because one of the only things he can do on bishop to c2 after queen to d3 would be to put a knight on b4 and try to win that bishop. Hutch has very good instincts. I gotta say, like for someone who doesn't know a lot of opening theory, he has really good instincts. Just his understanding that he really needs to get e5 or he's that much worse is impressive to me. And actually making me regret my little mistakes that I've made, like maybe not a3 and bishop c2 instead. So now what to do? I'm not really worried about him playing e4 because of knight to c7 stuff, but I'm not thrilled about it either. If I take e5, and he takes, and I take, and he takes, I guess I can get b4 at the end of those lines and support my c-pawn, so I haven't lost my Panov majority, so I'll go for that. Tell you what I could go for right now is some wings. You know, some nice little buffalo wings. I don't know why I just got a sudden craving for buffalo wings. Real spicy hot, right? Like the real nice kind. All right, let me take here. And like I said, now I'm going to play b4, maybe. Maybe, baby. Just support c5 so that I know that my 3-on-2 majority is alive and well, is healthy and strong. His isolated pawn on d5 is not his favorite pawn. But okay, he's liberated his position. I mean, e5 was exactly what he needed to play. It was his only real chance. And he did it. So he broke open the center at the tactical risk of creating the IQP on d5. So he wants to support his center. Puts that bishop on e6, right where it should be. I'm going to kind of force him to trade his knight for my bishop. Finally, get my queen off the back rank. If he doesn't, Okay, he didn't, but I'm kind of happy about that. I mean, now it's no longer as good as it might have been before, because now he really has to worry about battery ideas. Before he had these knight to b4 shots, if you remember. But now if I put the bishop on c2, I am immediately threatening queen to d3, which threatens queen h7 checkmate, and I'm just going to go for it. Because now, if he plays g6 trying to stop it, rook takes e6 just wins on the spot. And that's exactly what we're going to go for, is a destruction of his king side. Pawn takes, queen takes g6, bishop g7, queen h7, king f7, bishop g6, king e7, queen takes g7 is mate in 2. So yeah, it's a forced mate. It is a forced mate. So
that was a sneaky little tactic there. I liked that.
Thanks. Yeah, it was a little tricky, but hold on, I'm gonna invite you to the analysis board.
I enjoyed that game a lot.
That was good. You had the right instincts. You played e5 at exactly the right time. That was very nice.
Yeah, I was happy with that move. I wasn't happy with my position the whole time. I felt cramped the whole time, but at the very least, it felt like a challenge to try and defend correctly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and okay. I was talking about how it might get bad for you very quickly as soon as I got this big space advantage on the queen side. But then, and I was saying Black's only way to really liberate the position is to play e5, and that's exactly what you did. So this is all regular stuff in the Caro-Kann. I remember you tweeted at me that you were playing the Caro-Kann, so that's good.
How do I flip board? I'm confused. All right, there we go. All right.
There you go.
Oh yeah, so I don't know what, I've never seen this response to the Caro-Kann right there.
So this is the Panov Botvinnik. It's one of the sharper ways to play against the Caro. I mean, so you've probably seen the classical or the advanced or even the exchange. But
I've only prepared for the advanced. And
okay.
By prepared, I mean I've studied one line in the advanced.
Right. Okay. Cool. So this line is typically reaching isolated queen pawn positions, which just means like as soon as I play this, the chances are at some point black should be taking this pawn, and we should reach a position like this where white has this weak isolated pawn, and that's what you should be attacking. But in our game, you didn't do that, which is another dynamic way to play it, but the risk of it is exactly kind of what happened, is that eventually, again, here is we're getting close to like your last chance. Now that I've wasted a tempo with my bishop, you really might want to consider just capturing c4.
I did. I really thought about that.
Okay.
I gave that some thought, and then I don't know why. In my mind, I'm like, it just feels like too slow. I'd rather try and develop my piece or castle or something. But I guess.
Well, I mean, the nice thing is this game will be useful for your future endeavors, and I'll just give you a quick advice. So next time you play this, I would suggest taking c4, especially if you can gain that tempo on that bishop. And your goal in the position after getting castled should be to play b6, bishop b7, get that bishop on that nice diagonal, and then move the poti out of the way to unleash the bishop, and then the rook can come to the c file. So if you can imagine your formation, it would go something like this.
Yeah, I was thinking. Yeah, I thought about fianchettoing that bishop too.
And
but that's the other problem with white's position, was that I had white bishop problems for like half the game.
Right.
Like more than half the game. I only got him out to a really ineffective square super late.
Yeah, in my video, which I'm not streaming or anything, just locally recording for later, I talked about that one of the issues, again, with not taking and what happened in the game was that this bishop has a very hard time getting active. But again, so even with your mistakes, Hutch, you're doing some things really well, which is recognizing that when you have less space, which is what you had in this position, you have to change the center. And so and again, I said whether you know the theory or not, your instincts were actually 100% correct, which is, excuse me, which is you have to find some way to liberate the center, to play e5, and to unleash the bishop, or you're just going to get smashed.
Yeah.
And that's what you did. I think after bishop f6, okay, here's something that happened in the game. In the game, I already had this idea in mind of backing up the bishop and setting up this battery to go checkmate you, like what happened. But I couldn't do it because
Can I back you up and ask you, why did you right there. Why did you decide that me taking your light squared bishop wasn't that big of a deal for you? Like, why did you decide that exchange was advantageous, or
like right here when you played there?
Yes, yeah.
Well, it wasn't that it was like super great for me. I like my bishop. I mean, obviously in the game I tried to use it, but I evaluated that the pawn majority, which is my 3 versus your 2, was a bigger advantage than trying to keep the bishop. Because if you went out of your way to take here, you're also giving up a critical piece that's supposed to be supporting the liberation of e5. So
Yeah.
without that knight, I've got complete control over these dark squares.
Yeah.
And okay, it's still an interesting game, but white is better because a good exercise to do in games is imagine right now if all the pieces were off the board, you only had the pawns. If you did that, what you would see is that white's actually winning in this position because this is what we call a pretender, which means it's not a pass pawn, but you have no way to stop it from becoming a pass pawn. So, so positionally, I'm kind of thinking bigger picture, like, all right, well, he goes here. I don't want to waste a tempo saving my bishop. And then you might just take on c4 and get this other knight to d5, and now you've got like an ideal way to play against the isolated queen pawn. Your pieces are very well coordinated.
Okay.
So I was like, well, I'm going to use this opportunity to get c5 to get my advantage on the pawns, and if you take here, you lose a knight to support e5, and you help me complete my development. But I think honestly, I think you probably should have, because at this point, the fact that you waste time, by retreating ends up being just as bad. Although
in my mind, my logic was that somehow it felt like you were weakening your center by pushing this pawn a little bit. I don't know if that's actually true.
No, you're right. No, I am, especially because this pawn is backward.
Yeah.
So ideally, yeah, you're right. If we imagine if we added a white pawn here and a black pawn here, then white would be really happy because now I've got a really healthy chain, right? But I don't. I'm missing this pawn, which means you're absolutely correct that this is a target, and you followed through on that by attacking it and undermining it. What I'm saying is that this is a very dynamic opening. Both sides have clear plans. You want to undermine my pawn and to liberate your pieces via the king side. I want to do the best I can to squelch that and be ready to win the endgame with my massive pawn majority.
Yeah.
So
okay.
What you're saying isn't wrong. I'm just kind of describing what my plan was at the same time, and I think that okay, I'll put it this way: there are positions very similar to this that are reached in the mainline Panov where the same dynamic I described happens. White has the 3-on-2 versus black's undermining of the dark squares, but you have an even better position. Here it was like you were kind of down time from the normal plan because of the time you lost with the knight. Okay, so whatever. I decided to go for this dark squares, and you did exactly what you should do. This was a great move. I didn't have a great way to deal with the threat of e4 and this, so I decided that I would just let you kind of liberate your pieces and strengthen what I said is my long-term plan, which is that I have a 3-on-2 pawn majority. And
I felt like trading down in this spot was actually good for me.
I think it was totally. Whenever you have less space and a cramped structure, trading pieces always helps the person with less space. So this is exactly what you should do. And again, a5 is good. So, but now it gets down to like the last moment where I said once I was like, okay, finally he needs to take my bishop because you've managed to open the position. You've gotten this bishop liberated and developed. Yes, this isn't ideal. You have the isolated pawn, and I have the 3-on-2. But this position is still very, very tricky. As long as you don't like blunder a fork or something, you're doing fine.
Sure.
But this was your only real big mistake of the game was not doing that at your last moment, and now this plan is really hard to stop. I mean, honestly, even if you see it here, like how do you stop this idea now that you haven't gotten rid of this bishop? There's, I mean, the only way I can think of is you play rook e8 voluntarily to try to defend the bishop, so that when I play here, you can block the diagonal and I can't sack. But doing this whole idea doesn't work because I'm just popping into c7. Even back here. So I look at this position as, and you probably didn't realize it during the game, but as soon as you brought the knight back to c6 and let me keep the bishop for the final time, I was like, okay, now I play this, and it's. I think this is pretty much over. I don't see how you deal with this threat.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there you go. Cool.
All
right, I'm down to 7 minutes.
Let's do it.
I'm at one of these points. You're gonna get me under some serious time pressure here.
This insight, this analysis is really cool, man. I'm digging this. Enjoy that you can me insight into how to maybe not play as bad as I am.
Word. No, you're actually doing really well. It's good. All right, here we go. And I think your honestly your interest and your level is like really, I think how a lot of people, now they don't get a lot of analysis like this very often. So
Yeah.
if you got some opening theory under your belt, you might actually be pretty good.
The extent of my chess experience was I loved the movie Searching for Bobby Fischer in high school, and my
Right.
mom used to she taught me chess when I was young. My mom introduced me to chess too. You said your mom was the one that introduced you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so but she was not a club player or anything like that. She would have
Right.
been like a 600 or 700 player or something. But I just decided when I got older, I was in my early 20s, and I needed a new hobby because I had sort of bad hobbies and I wanted to
Right.
replace some of the good ones. So I just started playing chess. Or I bought Chess for Dummies, and I just started playing chess in this coffee shop that was right down the street from my house or apartment. And it was kind of like the movie because I was learning chess, playing 5-minute chess. So I
Right.
wasn't really learning like good chess, but it was fun. It was really
Right.
exciting to play, it's low time constraints. But now as I'm getting older and I actually want to improve, I feel like my background in blitz chess is kind of betraying me a little bit because my instincts are just to move. If I see the right move, just move instead
Right.
of sitting on my hands and maybe trying to analyze it a little bit deeper.
That's a good
But
point.
this is good.
I
This
think
is good for me.
and habits are hard to break. I would just say like don't judge it too hard too, because at the same time, as long as you try to establish something clear that happened in every game, blitz games can never be that bad because you are gaining a little bit of experience. But overall, learning how to manage your time, in critical positions and not go too fast is definitely something that people who play more rapid chess than standard chess have trouble with. So it's good. It's good that you observed that. That's good.
Yeah.
So, all right, here we go.
All right, let's do this.
User left your channel.
Setting up my time for Hutch for 7 minutes, and the game begins. I'm going to go back to this Nimzo and see if he learns anything from the first game we had. Know what I mean? Let's see if he plays the same bishop g5 or tries to be a little more cautious over his dark square. So he's playing it very much like you would play a queen's gambit. So again, the difference is that when you have a queen's gambit structure, what you have is the pawns on d5, and because of the tension on d5, the bishop pinning the knight to the queen makes the most sense possible because this knight is a key defender. But in the Nimzo Indian, the bishop on g5 this early at least is a lot of times very risky on the queenside dark squares because instead of playing d5, I have a bishop over here creating some tactical mayhem. And again, if he plays d5, I might go for the queenside again. We'll see what happens there. But okay, so I'm going to play h6 first, play a little tickle, see if he succumbs to the idea of giving up the bishop pair too early, because I would love to get the dark square bishop and just have both my queen and my bishop, ganged up on this square on c3. I'm going to guess that he'll recognize that he shouldn't do that, and he'll play bishop h4. He played bishop f4. Okay. The problem with that is now he doesn't have even any threats here, so I can immediately move the queen out and pin the knight, and this battery is really difficult to deal with. Even on queen to c2, I'm just going to pop my knight into e4 and build up the pressure on c3. Again, you see some of the drawbacks of bringing out this bishop early where you feel like it's just a normal good idea for white. It's just developing a bishop to an active square, pinning a knight. How can it be wrong? But bigger picture thinking is about the plan in the position, not just developing pieces in the position. So now he's losing some material because of his kind of lack of awareness of where he really wants his pieces to be in Nimzo Indian. I can take there, and even on check, I have knight e7. Back that thing up. So I'm taking advantage of the pin, and now I'm going to trade, although he recognizes that he knows, okay, he's kind of messed up, so he just backs up, doesn't try for too much, tries to unpin it. Makes sense. I'm going to take here. Taking with the knight, he would have taken with the pawn. I would have had to deal with the bishop right away. So instead, I decide to take with the bishop. And if he takes with the pawn, I can just get castled. c4 can be met by knight to b4, and I should be fine. So I'll go for that. We'll go for that. I need to speed up a little bit. As much as I love talking about it and providing instruction, teaching is my #1 passion. I have to make sure that I play as fast as I can, because I'm getting lower and lower on time here, right, against the almighty Hutch. Okay, we will take our opportunity to gain a tempo. And get developed. Now, do I want to play d5 and really open the center? He does have the bishop here, I'm not sure. The nice thing about d5 is it also gets rid of my potentially weak d-pawn, so maybe I should just play d5 and then develop, right? Develop my light square bishop. Still, if takes c4, there's no tactic to win a piece because I have knight to b4, so no problem, man. No problem, man. So he goes for it now. And now I will do it. Pop the pony into b4. And he's got a tough decision to make. If he moves the queen off of the b1h7 diagonal, I'm just going to capture it on e4. Capture the pawn on e4. But if he plays queen to b1, it's kind of a passive place for the queen, right? He's probably not going to be too thrilled about that. Because of all that, I guess he decides he doesn't want to put the queen on an awkward square, and he's gonna give up the dark square bishop. But I'm also happy about this. I mean, from the perspective that got a lot of pawns now. I got a lot of pawns, and I got a knight that wants to head to d4 in the worst way. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to go do that. I'm going to bring that knight into d4. Right? Take off my headphones for a minute. Now that Hutch isn't here, I can breathe. My ears can breathe. My ears get real hot. I get hot ears. Don't worry about it. It's a medical condition. All right, so he goes for this, but now it's time. Just like Rafiki once said, it is time. Simba, Simba, remember who you are. Who knew that Darth Vader was also Simba's dad? Yup, that happened. So now there's a lot of good things that can happen. I can play c3. If he moves the knight, I can play c2. Punch that pawn up the board. He plays queen d3. I don't have a concrete follow-up next, which is a little bit irritating. So I'm going to just develop. Like, it seems like probably not the best, and it might not be, but I wanted to just develop with a threat of c3 now, and then the bishop can come to b3 and kind of undermine his defense of everything, right? He's just got too many things to guard with the queen. Now I'm going to play bishop to b3 next. At least I thought so. I can also take e2 and then play bishop to c4, right? If bishop b3, queen d3, bishop c2, queen e3, right? If I take and play bishop to c4, he can't play like rook to b1 or anything. So he's got to move the queen, and I'm just going to win the exchange, right? He's getting a little bit more compensation than I preferred to allow. Now I'm going to take here and go for this. Play simple chess. Go win the exchange. Do what I didn't do in that King's Indian game, right? While he's thinking on that, I'm going to grab some water here. That is just water in my office. I know what that sounds like to all of you, but it's just water. All right.
User joined your channel.
Man, I'm having a real hard time with d4 against you.
Yeah, let me. Well, it was the two Nimzos. I mean, the King's Indian you did fantastic. Let me give you some advice on what's happening in the opening here.
Nimzo's just breaking my balls here, Daniel. Breaking my balls.
I got it, man. Nimzo is he was a real SOB anyway, that guy. But okay, let's do it.
Who was your favorite chess player? I'm gonna guess.
Um.
Let me guess.
Okay.
Petrosian.
No.
I don't know why I said that.
Forget Petrosian, man.
Morphe.
Honestly, I'm kind of more of a modern guy because I'm like younger generation. Like, I mean, Anand is one of my favorites just ever. Vichy. Fischer's games are great. Kasparov, probably Kasparov and Anand.
Did you see Pawn Sacrifice?
Yeah, I did. Did you?
Yeah. What'd you think?
It was okay. It was interesting that let me get you invited to the board. You know, no one's even ever tried to paint Fischer in that light where they kind of really dive into his mental illness and discuss that it was like an early lifetime thing that it developed. You know.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I think, who were friends and fans of Fischer weren't thrilled about that. They felt like it was developed over time and that he wasn't that crazy young. But I don't really know that that's true either. I think that obviously the guy was schizophrenic anyway. But anyway, I thought it was interesting.
You can't study chess for as much time as he did as a young man without. I feel like to display like that sort of obsessive behavior that early on, it's pretty hard to argue that probably wasn't a healthy thing for him to do.
Right, and I think
as
you
far
could
as
say
socializing went, and you know.
Right, and I think it's what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? You could argue that the factors in his life were already suggesting that he would become obsessed with something to sort of suppress what was going on in his home life, right? That he was just looking for something to dive into, and you know, some people got into drugs and were hippies, and some people became Fischer. So there you go.
So in this game, I invited you to make that same sacrifice.
Yeah, so I decided that I would. Well, okay. What happened was actually we got the exact same position as before. But if you're willing, I'll go as quickly as I can here for the fans. This might be educational though. One of the key things to understand is that the Nimzo is different than a traditional Queen's Gambit. So when the pawn is on d5, which we could reach by me playing d5 now, or we could have gotten it like a regular Queen's Gambit that you've probably faced before a million times.
I'm not seeing what you're clicking now. I lost it. It's just the board's not moving on my screen.
That is so weird.
Oh, there you go. Now it's back.
So now it's going again. So what I'm saying is a traditional Queen's Gambit would go like this. You've probably played this position before with bishop to g5, right?
Yes.
Okay. Or like in our game with knight f6, you can see the board. If I had played d5 here, that also would have gone into a traditional Queen's Gambit, right?
Yeah.
But so the point is there's two ways to reach that. Either d4, d5 right away, or if I had played d5 in our game. But the thing to understand is that this bishop development here makes the most sense in the Queen's Gambit because this knight is a key defender of d5. You've got 1, 2, you've got all this pressure on d5, and the whole theory of the Queen's Gambit centers around the tension here. So this bishop is doing exactly what it needs to do. We agree?
Yeah.
But in the Nimzo, one of the key things to understand is that when I play bishop b4, not only have I not played d5, so the aggressive aspects of bishop g5 make the most sense because you're hitting the knight who guards d5, etc., etc. But also, not only is d5 not a target, but this bishop is potentially dangerous over here because of the tactics you've been seeing on the dark squares. So the development of the bishop to g5 in this position, not only does it make less sense overall strategically, but you also have to be very careful because after c5, you get a lot of positions where in many cases, you don't worry about the queenside dark squares early on in most Queen's Gambit positions, but in this position, it's a real tactical issue. And in fact, after h6, I was kind of baiting you into whether you would remove the bishop completely from the queenside. The normal move here is bishop h4 that a lot of people play, and now they've completely abandoned the queenside, so that makes that makes all kinds of moves even stronger. When I come out and do similar tactics like the game, you don't even have the ability to bring the bishop back to d2 at some point. So,
okay.
and if you take here, this isn't great either, because now you've given up the bishop pair early. I'm ganging up here, and black is actually very comfortable here as well. So, so what I would say is the first mistake, believe it or not, is actually already here. Bishop g5, and ideally for white, if you want to play the bishop g5 systems in the Nimzo, and this is even at the highest level, you always got to play knight f3 first. So you're not playing e3, because then that obviously you're losing your ability to do this, right?
Yeah.
But knight f3 maintains that idea and sort of puts the question to black: what kind of Nimzo do I want to play? Most of the time against knight f3, people want to play the Rubinstein, which is b6 and bishop b7, and try to control the white squares. Well, now you have this idea, because now you're no longer worried about any of these tactics here, because the pawn is blocking the queen's access.
Okay.
So there you go. So it's move order stuff, but if you think about it bigger picture strategically, it's actually very useful, because you're at the level now where you no longer need to be told, hey, develop all your pieces and get castled. You're going to do that every time, because you know that if you don't, you'll get killed. But the next level is to stop thinking about just getting developed and getting castled. It's like in every position there has to be some concept of what the bigger picture aspects of the position want. What does the pawn structure want? And I always used to tell my students when I actually contributed something positive to the world, I would say, develop plans, not pieces. And the difference in mindset is that obviously when you're developing a plan, who comes along? The pieces. But when you're developing pieces, people often stay stuck in that thought of, let me just get this bishop out, this knight out, let me get castled, and then I'll figure out what to do. And in the process, against a strong player, like little bad things happen, and all of a sudden you're like, what the bleep, right? How did I get here? And that's what happens. So anyway, in this position, even though you made the right decision, you were like, okay, I want to keep the bishop here, you're still already in trouble. I mean, if you had guarded with the rook even, I'm immediately playing knight e4.
Right, yeah.
And
at the very least, you
ganging
get
up
a
here.
pawn.
So you decided to guard with the queen, but then this guy falls, and again, one of the good things you do on a practical level is once you recognize you've made a mistake, you sped up and you kept the game interesting by just, all right, I've lost the pawn, let me play bishop d2, something went wrong. And that's a good part of your chess. I think that'll help, especially as I have less time. But the truth is, if we're evaluating it unbiasedly, something has already gone very wrong for white. You're down a pawn.
Yeah.
And really, the lessons we talked about in the opening were really the critical points. So there you go.
And my pieces here aren't really doing anything.
Exactly. So, but
they're kind of minding the center, but they're not really at the same time.
And you tried to change that. You tried to change the structure and liberate the bishop, and that made sense. But in doing so, now more tactics happen because you're not castled yet. So
yeah, your knight was really giving me problems there.
Probably best here, like last point, was just keep the queen on the board. And if you move the queen here, as passive as that looks, you're actually threatening a3 because the knight is pinned. So I was actually thinking about what to do on this. My original thought was,
I see.
My original thought was like, if he does that, it's no big deal. I can take here with tempo. But then I thought, you actually take here. You've got 1, 2, and you're still threatening a3. So when you played bishop b4, I was still in the process of thinking, what am I going to do on queen b1? I think in hindsight, I would. There's a few things to do. Let's see. It's a real mess. I can like move the queen and threaten this, but now maybe you take and get your pawn back, and I don't like that. So what do I do? What do I do on queen there? Do I go all in and Oh, you know what I can do that I just realized is I can actually go for this. I can play d takes e4. Can you see the position?
Yep.
And then I can actually, even with the rook hanging, take advantage of the fact that I have my own tactics and maybe do something like this. I guard the rook. If you go here, then I get this move. This is going to become a real mess.
Yeah.
But still, I think that this was probably your best shot. You should have tried harder to keep the pin here, because I self-pinned by putting the knight there. I thought that the tactics would be good for me, but if you had repeated, I mean, it wasn't that clear yet. I had to deal with some threats, so that would have made it a longer game.
Well, let's jump into the next one. So this one's going to be 10 and 6.
10 and 6, man.
Okay. All right, I'm going to hop in the other room. Good luck. Have fun, sir.
Go for it.
User left your channel.
All right, let's do it. The almighty Hutch. Six minutes.
User joined
Wait,
your
Daniel, I
channel.
have a request.
Yo, go for it.
Can we play the advanced variation of the Caro-Kann?
Absolutely.
Nice.
Let's do it.
User left your channel.
Here we go. Advanced variation of the Caro. Okay. So he plays the bishop f5 line. Should I really challenge him on what he knows in these positions? What do you guys think? Wait, I'm just talking to myself as usual, right? It's okay. I'm going to go for the most aggressive lines. See how he handles it with h4. It's one of the things I can try to do to punish his bishop for developing outside the structure. Because funny thing about these positions is this, right? So he gets the bishop outside of the pawn chain and wants to get like a good French. But in the process, he might make the bishop like a target. So I play h4 to sort of threaten to trap it. And once they commit h5, they've committed as many weaknesses on the king side of the board as I have with h4, so it's kind of dynamically equal, right? And then I try to kind of gain some space here. You play bishop g5 to hit the queen, and then you guard the bishop. If he takes, I'm taking with the h pawn and opening the h file. This is actually all theory still. Mr. Hutch probably isn't totally aware of the theory, knowing his strengths and weaknesses, but he's playing all the best moves so far. Getting yelled at by Hikaru, who ran into a bug at the same time as doing the show. And I will have to let him know that I got his chats. I will let him know. So he takes it. I'm going to take with the h-pawn. This is actually... What? That was weird. Didn't quite let me make the move I wanted to play the first time around, but I did the second time. So now we'll see how he handles it. I'm going to play knight to c3 next, and then decide how to deal with the king side. If I want to play knight e2 and knight g3... you know, if I want to try for some immediate tactics like bishop e2 and then g4 because the h-pawn is pinned. These are all different possibilities. I'll go for this. I'm hitting h5, but I'm also threatening g4, which is even more critical. Unfortunately for Hutch, there's a chance he might... Okay, he didn't blunder, but I was going to say there might have been a chance that he could. If he had played g6 to guard the h-pawn, then g4 would have been winning immediately. As it is, g4 is actually still strong because of the pin, but not winning in the sense that it doesn't trap the bishop anymore. So, we'll see where he decides to put that bishop. He goes back, and if I take it, I pin my own... I pin my own pawn, right? Unless I'm going to take there and take with check, which is actually kind of interesting. Maybe we would call his bluff. If he decides to try to build on the pin himself, I might take g6 and then take f7 with check. He says nay, but now I'm gonna be happy with the single pawn advantage I got, close up the position, preventing counterplay, and maybe I'll castle long, or maybe I'll just develop my knight on g1 and try to keep my space advantage. So he's going to bring up the queen aggressively. And I'm going to attack her and ask her what her intentions are, young lady. Exactly what are your intentions with my queenside, little lady? She says, "Oh, nothing. I'm just going to back up. Don't worry about me. It was an accident." That's my queen impression. For some reason, the queen talks like this. I have no intentions, no ill will. Okay, I'll play bishop f3. I should have played b4 first, because then if I play b4 next, he can put queen a6 and get the diagonal. But my idea behind this was pretty simple. I want to bring the knight to e2 and into g3. That was the old idea. Interesting. He's very good at just sensing that he needs to create counterplay, that he doesn't have squares, and he's willing to risk it to do that. And that's it's a good attribute of his chess. But I think here he's risking a lot, because I can actually maybe play g6 and get 2 passed pawns, because my rook is defended by the bishop, so there's no take it. If g6, e5, g7, he moves and I get h6, I got a lot of passed pawns there. That's right. That's more than he might have bargained for, but I'm not so sure. I'm going to kick the queen back to c7, and then I'm debating still between g6 or just castling long immediately. I think I'll just castle long, bring the other rook to g1, rely on open space and counterplay. The h-pawn is enough. Rather, if I played g6, I thought he would play e5, and I didn't like that he was going to break in the center and maybe get enough counterplay to have compensation for my 2 connected passers. So I wasn't interested. Hashtag not interested. So now this is good for me. I think he's trying to take advantage of my open king, because I did castle into an extended pawn center. But my king is actually very safe there, given that it's a relatively closed position. So to bring the rook over to a1 seems like a good idea. Yeah, so he wants to challenge the a-file as well, but I'm happy. See, now I'm playing on the full board, and he's created issues on both sides of the board, right? We've got these double connected passed pawns in addition with the open a-file. I don't know that he's suited to deal with both. You know, if he plays rook a8, okay, now I can just play g7, I think, and he's got real problems. If the rooks come off the board, I'm real happy. Those pawns will only get more dangerous as the rooks come off the board. So the show continues. Okay, so now just take it. Take it and push it. Just push it. He's going to take on g7. I'll get a queen and win a piece. I guess that's probably good enough. Yeah, why not? Piece is a piece, as they say. Let's prevent counterplay by his rook. Plus, moving that knight actually opens up this diagonal here, which might be useful to go after his king. We'll see. Yeah, I'm going to take off the headphones just for a minute. Give my ears some room to breathe. Now let's go for this queen e2. Hitting both e6 and maybe coming after the diagonal here. depending on what happens. Okay, now I should probably just happily just go to Sacktown, right? Yeah, it seems to make sense. I'm already up a piece, so worst case scenario, I give back the piece I already had. Yeah, his king was falling apart there, and
okay, all right.
All right,
I have to use the restroom real quick. If you wanted to set up that analysis game, and then I'll accept it as soon as I come back. 1 second.
Yep,
here.
sounds good. All right, we're going to get our analysis board going. And we'll invite Hutch as soon as he gets back. Interesting stuff so far. Hopefully useful for people both watching my video now, which is in post time, or enjoying the live stream from Hutch. I don't know if I'm actually live with him if he's not here. Can people hear me? If so, let's make lots of awkward jokes about Hutch, right? Let's make it real up in here. I don't know. I don't think I'm live. There you go. That's funny. All right. Well, as soon as he gets here, we will take a quick look. Everybody, just hold your horses. I'm going to answer a Caro here. Apparently you can hear me. That's funny. You can hear me on the live stream. There you go.
They can hear you. Oh, they can hear you.
Nice. I said I don't know if Hutch left me live with the microphone. You know,
risky move.
Risky move.
I know you're a wild man, Dan.
Yeah. So I can tell. About to let loose with some real awkward jokes, but all right. So we have an advanced.
I know there's a lot of racism that goes on chess.com. Here on Twitch, we're respectful. Okay? Just keep that in mind.
That's right. All right. Well, so you played the Bishop of 5-1. Good stuff. Have you ever faced H4?
I'm not in your.
Oh, sorry. I just invited you.
Did you?
I hit it just now.
Oh. Don't see it.
Did you close?
Try inviting me again?
You want to close out of the game board, or is that what it was?
Yeah, I closed out of everything. Try sending it one more time. Oh, there it is. Says
it did. Okay, there we go. Good. Boop. All right. So have you ever faced H4 before?
No. You keep. I mean, you keep throwing me for a loop here.
Well, I'm not meaning to, but I'm also just it's not a bad thing, right? It helps.
I think that I've seen. I was watching. Have you ever heard of Grandmaster something Feingold? Yeah,
Ben Feingold.
Yeah, I've been watching a bunch of his lectures on YouTube, and he did one on the advanced variation. I think he talked about this possible opening for white, but I don't think he explored it all that much.
Right.
And I remember him saying that H5 isn't H5 an okay move here?
Yep. No, you actually played it correctly for the first 7 or so moves.
Nice.
So you and I said that as I was analyzing that you had good instincts figuring it out. I'll give you the 30-second rundown of what's the big picture premise here. Okay, so obviously when you play Bishop F5, you're trying to reach this pawn chain, kind of like a French, but with the advantage of not having a bad bishop who's blocked by the pawns, right?
Sure.
So, but in doing so, you're wasting a little bit of time and maybe putting the bishop in harm's way, because my pawn chain facing this side of the board has the potential to be very aggressive. So one of the traps behind H4 is actually very simple. If you had just played E6, you just immediately lose the bishop.
Yeah, I noticed that, and I figured the only move I can do without losing time would be to push H5.
Right, and the other move you can play is you can actually play H6.
So if you want to show just for if like beginners are in the chat, why would that lose the bishop? Can you show me with the board here?
Sure. After E6 G4, can you see that?
No, yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
Okay, so now if the bishop goes here, we play F3, and when it finally runs out of squares, we play H5.
Yeah, it's just completely trapped over
just
there
completely trapped and out of square. So H4 has the one it has a sneaky intention. Sometimes in blitz chess you get people to trap their own bishop, but there's also a second trap. There's not just one trap. If you play H6, Now when I play g4, the only move here is bishop back to d7, actually. Because if you go the other way, there's a second trap, which is I immediately sack this pawn, just shoring the light squares, and white actually gets like a crushing attack on the light squares. I play this way, put a pony on e5, and it's a nightmare for the king.
Yeah, that looks horrifying. I'm not into that.
So the nice thing, then this is really good stuff that I played h4 because I just prevented you from losing 2 games maybe. Sure. There you go. And so you played h5, and this is the best line. For the record, if you ever get sick of h5, you can play h6 and then play bishop to d7. In fact, Leko played this against Kramnik in their 2004 World Championship match. So Kramnik played it against Leko as black. So this is playable for black.
Okay.
But again, h5 is considered to be kind of the modern best way to play it. So, as long as you feel good about these positions, then just stick with it. Yeah. Okay, so I played c4. This is all theory, and you did it right. Yeah, that's the thing about my move is one of the ideas is, all right, I go for my traps. You see the traps, you play h5, you don't allow it, but in doing so, we both committed weaknesses on the king side, right?
Yeah.
So now I sort of change the nature of the game with c4, rather than going for this, I go for the slow pawn chain and you get everything you've ever dreamed of with c5 and knight here. I say, no thank you, I'm gonna play c4, and we're both gonna have space on the queen side. So that's kind of the idea. So bishop to g5, bishop b7, queen d2. Now here's probably your first mistake. This tension.
This is still theory right now.
Yeah. You played this all correctly. Here taking g5 is a mistake because the opening of the h file definitely favors white as you kind of experienced in the game. There's all kinds of weird tactics here because the pawn is pinned.
Yeah.
So what you should do is just sort of ignore that tension and play knight to d7. This is theory. And then, depending on what I do, you have a couple options. One of them is to kind of play how you did, because if I'm not winning the pawn over here like I did in the game, if I play c5 now it's bad. It's like that Panov structure before, and you can play b6 and kind of undermine my pawns here. So I don't want to do that. And you can also take here and then gain a tempo on the bishop, and then put your knight on d5. This is probably what I would recommend for you to try to do next time. So
wait,
again,
show me that one again.
Yeah. I'm gonna show you again. So you played it all right up to here.
Okay.
And then the better move theoretically would have been knight to d7. One, it's an easy move to remember because it just develops a knight. But two, you have a concrete threat, which is to take c4, gain a tempo on the bishop, and then fill this newly created outpost square.
Okay.
So that's exactly what you should do, is like that. And your next moves kind of play themselves. I mean, play queen d7, get castled long, and Bob's your uncle, right?
I like this.
There you go.
I like this as black, yeah.
So there you go. So that would be what you should do next time. Unfortunately, I got you in another trap, but after you take it, if you go back for this, you're probably still doing okay. Like, you could go for something similar here, similar to the game, but it is already that much worse, as you can see, because here I might go back for this, and already you're running into the same types of traps, because you've opened the H file by taking on g5.
I see. Yeah, I just didn't like that light squared bishop. He looked painful to me. So
well, he's just the point is, like, it's kind of like a game of chicken when you have positions like this. Like, often the first person who blinks or the first person who breaks is conceding something, and you should think about that in a lot of situations of tension in chess.
I love games where there's lingering tension.
Right.
There's pieces that have been challenging each other directly for like 7 straight moves, and it's happening on 2 different sides. I love those kinds of games. Those are so much fun.
and this is the kind of tension you want to build on. You should have just left it, like we said, go for this plan next time. Because obviously I'm conceding if I take. I'm giving up my bind and letting you develop. Right? Yeah. And you're conceding if you take, as you saw, because you're giving me the space that I need and better control over the king side. So that was kind of what happened.
Well, my idea here was that my knight on the G file there was going to be really tough to develop if I didn't do that. I felt the only thing I was thinking about was knight to H6, which I guess isn't terrible for now, but
I'll put it like this, and that's because this is a way, now I'm like, I've seen enough of your games where I can give you like advice, not just in terms of the X's and O's of the specific position, but also in terms of your thought process. Yeah. Here's what I would say to improve that. It goes back to the advice I gave last game. Stop thinking about things in terms of whether individual pieces are getting developed, and think about like the bigger picture position. Because the truth is, you're good enough now. I know you're going to develop your pieces. Like you're going to do that as soon as you can. But that knight is actually like, okay, in a closed position, not every one of my pieces is going to find a good square either. So if you think about it from an individual, like how amateurs think about developing their pieces, I got to get every piece off the back rank in a hurry. I got to get castled in a hurry. Those are the basic principles of chess. But in a closed position, really fighting for the critical squares, because there's only going to be a few squares that become available in closed pawn structures. So fighting for the few available squares that will become open is much more important than the individual development of a single piece. And that's what like masters do that amateurs don't. It's like they're focused on, and you're almost panicking because you're like, I got to do something because I got to change the nature of this knight. Well, really, this knight doesn't need a future. It's actually fine right where it is for now. You might play f6 later. Maybe the knight supports that. Maybe I'll make a mistake and you'll bring the knight from h6 to f5, which, by the way, from f5 you hit d4.
Yeah.
But in terms of the practical advice, the way I would help your thought process is one, the moves I said are actually real. I think f6 at some point is an idea, and I think this idea is a useful one. But also, anytime you have a thought where you're thinking about an individual piece needing to be developed, you should then ask, is that the most critical thing for like the overall pawn structure here, for the bigger position? Like, where are the weaknesses? Where are the targets? What is my plan, actually?
Yeah.
Find the plan and then decide whether or not that piece fits into the individual plan at this moment. I think
that's the hardest part for being like a novice player is imagining that long-term plan.
Right.
And because because chess can be so complicated. And so it's really hard to force your brain to consider possibilities like the ones that you're suggesting right now. If you don't have any concept of a plan for the long run, then it really just you're just kind of making moves just to make moves, which is what I end up doing a lot of the times, because I look at a position, I'm like, I have no idea how to improve this, but I have 5 minutes, so I need to make a move right now.
Right. Well, I think you do a pretty good job of finding the right plan. I mean, I've actually, I think you've done well having a good feel for the pawn structure, which is actually really key. And that's how I would answer it is, squares and pawns can't be undone. So how do you find the bigger picture plan in every position? You start with the backbone of the position, which is the squares and the pawns, because those are the only things that can't move themselves back. So at least that diagonal is open, that square is available, that file is open, and you should think about it. Even as you learn opening theory where they tell you exactly what to do, right? Theory that's like 30 moves deep. It should all be based on that kind of thinking, which is what are the permanent aspects of this position I can execute against? Let me develop my plan around that first, and then the pieces will follow. So that's what I would say.
Interesting. All right, let's jump into the next game here.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
5 and 10.
All right, we're getting down.
All right, good luck. Have fun, sir.
Thanks, man.
User left your channel.
Here we go. And now I got to set up my time. For 5 minutes, everybody. It's a big deal. All right, we'll switch it up. We'll go for a Queen's Gambit and maybe give him something he's a little more familiar with than the Nimzo. So we'll play just kind of a traditional QGD. I gotta make sure I play faster. He's a pretty good player. He really is. I'm not even just saying that. He has had pretty good feel for some of these positions. So he's playing just like a regular old orthodox QGD right now. Nothing to it. Everybody's happy. Everybody's happy. I'm gonna take off my headphones once again because I need all the room to breathe that I can. Oops, that's a rook, not a knight. There you go, pro tip. So we get closer to just a regular tension in a QGD. Play a6, he's probably thinking about how he wants to deal with the tension, right? Here we go, Hutch. Here we go. Okay, there's some critical decisions to make. I mean, maybe he's thinking that I have potential weaknesses, so he's even going to consider... Oh, wow, and right as I said that he does it, he plays c5. It's very risky, though, for him to do that. I'm going to play h6 first and foremost, because if he puts the bishop on f4, I'll go to h5 and try to eliminate the dark-squared bishop. If he goes to h4, I might immediately play e5. Everybody shakes and bakes on e5, and at some point the c pawn falls. It's the same kind of approach he had against me when I extended the Panov structure, but why do I think his extension is worse than my Panov extension when I did it a few games ago? Because he doesn't actually have a 3-on-2 against 3 pawns. Normally the e pawn is gone for him and the c pawn is gone for me. So here that's not the case. We have a full healthy structure, so his advance and relieving that pressure on d5 actually really helps me. And I can be even more solid with e5 than Hutch was. Why? When he played e5, remember, he didn't have the c pawn, so the d pawn was becoming isolated. In my case, I'm going to trade my e pawn for his c pawn, and I'm much happier to have me in this position. I now have a 4-on-2, and yes, he has a 5-on-3, but his pawns are doubled. So that's one of the risks behind extending that structure a little early without the reward of having that 3-on-2 majority. So that's one of the things, man. See what he decides to do now. He backs up like he's got his own aggressive intentions on the diagonal. Diagonals, right? Against my king, but I'm going to put my knight on e4, so I'm not really that stressed about it. I'll play rook e8, actually. And if he plays b4, I'll just play knight e4. Prevent that diagonal from becoming a real issue. That's the idea. I only have 3 minutes and 43 seconds, so I better not take this lightly. So he's kind of aware of all this. He wants to play b4, which I get it. He can play b4, I just want to make sure it becomes a weakness. He can still play it, right? So I'm just trying to be prepared for the fact that I'm going to want to target that b pawn as soon as he goes for it. And I can even consider knight e6 on b4. And put the knight on f8 to guard the checkmate. And if he trades, I might be able to get some stuff going before he gets the diagonal to be a real problem for me. So we shall see. I didn't really know what I wanted my plan to be. He goes for this. I kind of still don't know what I want my plan to be. I kind of want to go after the e5 pawn, which is doubled, right? And to do that, I'd like to play like bishop f8, which maybe isn't a bad idea. I maybe should have gone for that earlier because I could play g6 on this whole queen to d3 battery. And should be NBD, right? No big deal. He's going to trade, but am I not going to win a pawn at the end of this shenaniganizer? I think I'm going to win a pawn. Ooh, but I have to be very careful because in the end of trying to win a pawn, he actually gets rook to d8. It's a little bit dangerous for me, huh? So instead, I'm going to guard my pawn. My pawn's a little bit healthier than his still, not doubled like his is. It's tricky. It's tricky, tricky, tricky. Now I'm going to go gobble. I'm going to go eat that pawn. Bring the rook over. You can also bring it just to d8, just try to trade on the d file. Both ideas make sense. But now maybe the A pawn will become weak, so let's trade. Played b3, so my bishop on f8 serves some good purpose here, right? Interesting. Definitely interesting. He's bringing the queen to a strong square. I am going to play g5 and try to kick that knight out rather than g6. Because once the knight moves, I'm going to play bishop g6 with tempo on the queen. If not right away, maybe after rook d5, just grab the d file. Or right away, I don't even know. Both seem totally plausible courses of action. Knight e2, bishop g6. Right, I can also just play bishop to g7 here. I think that's what I'll do. Relocating my bishops to these diagonals over here, where they defend e4, they stay on this diagonal here. I've got a lot of good tension. Again, rook d5 is coming pretty soon. Feels like it'll be good. I'm going to pre-move that just in case he does it. As time gets lower, try to pre-move capture wherest the opportunity existeth. Little risk it for the biscuit on his part, right? I mean, e3 check is hanging. Queen takes e3 check. King moves. Rook takes d1 check. Rook takes d1. So a little risk it for the biscuit on his part, but I'm gonna I don't know. It also gives him some interesting stuff if I go for that. So I'm gonna solidify my position and kick the queen out. Say, get out of my house, right? Wave that Dikembe Mutombo finger. Interesting, but I don't think I care. Interesting, but I don't think I care. I don't think he's got anything. Kind of just parrying the threats, and it's possible I'm being lazy and that I should have calculated like taking his rook, done some more concrete evaluations of my position, but it's hard to want to do that when I feel so comfortable with my bishop here. And I'm slowly getting an advantage on time, right? I'm up a pawn. Up on time. If I take everything, in the end he has to take with the bishop, right? Because if he takes with the queen, I get queen takes e3 with check. So he plays a4. But now if I take on c2, no, it doesn't work. Would have been nice if that worked, huh? Would have been real, real nice. Should I just take everything? Should be better in the endgame. So many options, but it's actually, I just don't see an exact win, right? A lot of options, but I didn't see anything concrete. So now he picks up his speed. He picks up his speed, actually. It makes me regret my last move, huh? Now I'm turning rook d2. Wow. Goes for this. I'll go for the big trade. And then put the bishop here. Trying to hold on. Yeah, he's still just playing really, really well, isn't he? This game became a lot harder than I wanted it to be. Oops, that's check. I didn't even see that. Didn't even see that it was check. Just playing blunderful now, though. But I think after that, I'm going to get him. Yeah. Wow. Well, that was fun.
User joined your
God, I
channel.
was trying to hang in there.
Good stuff, man. You played really well.
I was trying to hang in there, man.
Dude, you did great. And actually, let's just go from that last critical moment, because forget about time. You were doing phenomenally. Let me invite you to the analysis board.
I never felt like I had any kind of initiative, though. If you're talking about like defending, is that what you mean?
Yeah, I mean, but that was a really tough position, and you defended it really well for a long time. I mean, you know, you can flip the board how you want. Let me know when you're ready. But I think up to this position here, where you played G4, can you see that?
Yeah.
That was a really good move. It was exactly what you should do, and I think you should try to invite the opposite code bishop ending, perhaps. Like maybe even take here.
Take here with what though? With my knight?
With the bishop. Did you see I played bishop takes?
with the bishop, I see. But then it's like you're a pawn up and you.
But okay, I mean I'm a pawn up, but your knight is really active and your king is more active than mine. I think that there's decent drawing chances here.
Okay.
You know, I mean, there's two ways to try to draw these things. Like, one, you recognize, okay, I think my blockade is good enough. So I have king, knight, and like, okay, it's hard for me to do things. That may not work here because I do have like a clear path to the basket, so to speak. Like, you know, it's you can't just sit. But let's
Yeah.
say you're not just sitting. Let's say you're trying to do something aggressively, like you have c5 coming. Notice I can't touch this square because you already would have forked me. And
Yeah.
you can try to trade like c pawn for b pawn and try to put me in a position where you might be able to give up the knight for the pawns or blockade on the light squares. One of the biggest advantages of a knight battling a single bishop is if you do manage something like this, you've got a color complex blockade.
Right. Yeah.
So okay, like it is. I mean, you are fighting for a draw. With best play, it might be winning for me, but with both of us just living off the increment, I mean, you defended really well, and I was like squeezing you here, right? It seemed like I was just like about to get a win, but I don't know, like I didn't see anything concrete in these positions.
That was tough.
So
this is when I offered you the queen trade, right?
Yeah, queen to c4,
Yeah.
right here, and which makes sense because you don't want me to start getting in. I guess I went for this plan, which I probably should have done here instead of bishop f6. Like, what the hell is that move? That was stupid by me. Like, I don't even know what I'm doing with that.
What was your thought process there?
Well, okay,
yeah. In case you want to swing your rook down, then I can't take the pawn. Maybe if the queen moves.
Well, yeah, I wanted to guard the rook, like so I can move this rook somewhere, and I thought about like just kind of sitting on the position because I made a stupid decision thinking you didn't have any moves. I was like, what are you going to do? And then, of course, you played this, which is a perfect move because it increases your pressure here. So, I mean, I was getting under time pressure, and I was like, all right, I'm just going to see what he's going to do. Like, sometimes the best thing to do is to try to let your opponent beat themselves, but you didn't, and you played knight f2, and I was like, oh, crap, like, this move is stupid. So, I mean, okay, like critical moments, like back here, like I mean, there should be something concrete for me, but I never cashed in. You played aggressively. I didn't go for the exchange here, which maybe I should have done.
Yeah, I was trying to. I actually blundered. I didn't even see that you were. I didn't even see that your dark square was fianchettoed there and attacking my rook.
Well, I thought that. I mean, I saw it, but I thought that. I was thinking about it earlier, but I thought like, oh, I give up my dark square bishop, maybe that doesn't help. But in hindsight, yeah, I can take and go there. What was I thinking? It's just like
you can take and then swing your rook down to
yeah.
D2, and I'm done.
Yeah,
because as soon as you take that, that's.
I was really being a little lazy, and I criticized myself and I was just like I was trying to.
Can we back up to the beginning of the game here so we can see where we deviated from opening theory and what mistakes were made?
Is that where we are right here? I mean, can you follow? Can you see him in the beginning?
Yeah, I can see it. Yep.
Okay. So Queen's Gambit decline. This was all good stuff. This was 100% theory.
By the way, I've played the Queen's Gambit, both accepted and declined. I think probably more than any other opening.
Okay,
on the black side and the white side. So it's like one of those few openings that I feel pretty comfortable with.
Right.
Except if I'm playing against the Nimzo, and then apparently I just collapse every time. Anyway,
well, I mean, it was good that we had that analysis then because you'll understand the differences. But this is all good. And okay, like probably C5 is not the best approach. The way you really want to play is just take on D5. This is and even here, this is the main line like Queen's Gambit decline. And there's a little bit of a cue here that you can remember. The cue is you don't take on D5 as long as my knight's on B8, because if you do, I'll take with the C pawn, and now I get my knight here, and I've just equalized in terms of activity.
Sure. Okay.
So the cue is you wait. The reason why what you did is correct. You play bishop to D3 instead. But as soon as I play...
Oh, now I've lost you. Now it's not showing on the board. If you go back just a couple moves, maybe it'll...
Can you see it?
No, I lost it.
Wow, it's weird. It's because I actually almost lost it too. Here, try to make a move on the board. Move a piece.
I can't.
That's really, really weird. All right, hold on. We're finding bugs, which is just, enough to really piss me off, but okay. It's this group analysis that it doesn't get a lot of hardcore user case testing because it always involves two people. But okay, now you should be able to follow.
Oh, there it is. Yep.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah.
So what I was saying is the cue is, so as soon as the knight comes here, now you take it. And that's what you should do. You should take here. And I'm not going to take this way anymore because that would be I'm playing a symmetrical structure with like a clearly worse development. You can just play like rook c1 and the knight comes to b5, and it's a real problem for me in a lot of positions.
Okay.
So the cue is the knight there. Now you take it, which means if I'm not going to take with this pawn, if I take with the knight, I'm giving you your 2-pawn center advantage, so you can just trade and immediately grab the center, and this is what you dream of in a Queen's Gambit.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all.
So if I take with the knight, you do that. If I take with the c-pawn, I'm worse, so I have to take with the e-pawn, which is what I would do. That's theory. And now, the way you want to play this is, instead of like what we had in the game where you extended this and gave me my breaks, I don't have the e-pawn to break at all against the pawn structure here, and you have what we call a minority attack. You'll get castled, and the next few moves, if you had them to play, would be things like rook b1, b4, b5, and as soon as you establish the pawn here, I have 3 bad decisions to make. I can take it, which isolates this pawn and opens more pieces. I can let you take it, which makes this pawn a weak backward pawn on the open file and a target. Or I can push it, which then you take it and isolate the d-pawn. So it's a positional attack, but it's very straightforward. You're castling, you're playing rook b1, you're shoving the the b-pawn up the board, and you're creating sort of a positional catastrophe for black. I'm exaggerating a little bit. It's not like black is resigning, but positionally, white's better.
The gut instinct, and I imagine it's the gut instinct of a lot of lower rated players, is to play queen c2 right away and just start putting pressure on that h7 pawn. But that doesn't really do anything right now, right?
Well, no, it's not a bad move. And I was sort of focused on highlighting the minority attack plan for you, but actually, if you want to see the whole theory goes like this. It goes rook here, knight here, queen to c2 is the main move, now black can play a number of moves like g6, knight g6, knight e4 is a move, which is a whole trick because if you take, you lose a piece. But you don't. I mean, you back up the bishop to f4, and actually white is still better, and you're still focused on this. I would put it like this. You should deal with the kingside tactics as they come up as a means to an end, just so you can get back to being better on the queen side. You don't want to focus. You don't want to focus on queen c2 as like I'm gonna wreck him on the king side. Like if you're thinking like that, then yes, you are thinking wrong because that's not where your advantage is. Queen c2 is good. Yeah, it's a good move, and yes, it's a battery. If I blunder, of course, there's tactics there, and the queen is also effective here because of the same plan I highlighted. So this is actually theory, but it's theory for different reasons in the way I'm explaining it versus just the thought of putting the queen here.
Okay.
So there you go. So let's back up. So where were we? What happened in the game? Oh, that was way too far. So we'll go back to a6. Can you see the position?
I can't see the a6 that's been played yet. Oh, there you go. I see c5. Yeah.
Okay, so a6, c5, and now I played h6. I can probably consider going for this tactic immediately, where I just play e5, and if you take, I move my knight. And the point is, at the end of all the smoke here, when it all clears, I'm going to be winning back my pawn and be a little better positionally because I ruined this whole pawn chain. Yeah. So what I did, because you didn't play the right line of taking here, as I highlighted you should. So again, the real thing we learned was the cue is as soon as the knight goes there, you take from now on.
Okay.
So because you didn't do that, and you played c5 like you did here, I get to be more aggressive with my center because you didn't take here. And what I would say is, why did I play a6 then, giving you a second chance to take here? Well, a6 is not a useless move because it's sort of like a long-term prophylaxis approach. I'm already protecting the b5 square against your coming minority attack, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you gain a tempo in advance by slowing down the plan. So that's why I played a6. It's a flexible move, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't go for this. You should still take and go for that plan I talked about.
So I had someone in my chat donate and then asked me to ask Danny if he's still salty over his chess rivals game against Finns, and then he calls me a rebound. Who's Finns?
First of all, Finns is international master John Bartholomew. Hutch would never be a rebound for me, okay? This relationship is more than that, first of all. Second of all,
you got called out.
Second of all, I'm not salty about it. I lose more chess games than most people play. In fact, did you see my video against Simon Williams? He's a GM. I won that one. That guy needs to check himself.
Someone in my Yeah, guy in chat, shut up. Someone else in my chat said. Someone else in my chat said you beat Nakamura one time.
I have beaten Nakamura. That is true.
Wow, get out of here. Wait,
And
what were the time controls?
I think we were playing either 3-0 or Bullet, but I beat him. I beat him just the other day on Chess TV, and he was not happy.
Wow,
But
interesting. He's really fun to watch. He's a really fun 5-minute. I've watched him play a lot of 5-minute chess on YouTube, and he's just
he's on another level. He's an animal. He's amazing.
Yeah.
It's funny. I've done well against him for some random, but he and I have known each other forever. I have this like weird karma against him, but I mean, he's just a beast. I mean, I'm not in his league like that. So,
oh my god, if you could introduce me to him sometime, that'd be fantastic.
Anytime. In fact, he's probably on. He was. While you were gone, he was on Skype complaining to me about some bugs on chess.com.
Oh yeah.
So I'll let him know. But all right, here we go. So you play C5, and I can't believe that guy just brought up the Finzo 905 match. It's like, dude, get over yourself, all right? I'm sorry.
He's just playing.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
All right, so C5. So I could have broken with E5. I played H6, and yeah, Bishop F4 is fine. I mean, but basically what we're going to get is it's kind of like that Panov structure you and I had in the other game, but the E-pawn and the C-pawn aren't gone. So the reward you have of making that extension, which is normally the 3-on-2 majority, you don't have that here because I have all my pawns, and you're actually still having to deal with E5, which is what you did against me, right?
Yeah.
But in my case, it's actually even easier for me to do this because I'm not isolating the D pawn. In your game, you were isolating the pawn. In this game, I'm winning back the pawn, and I've actually got a pretty healthy pawn structure here.
Yeah.
So.
So wait, go back. What move specifically allowed for this to happen?
Basically, C5.
Well,
All the way back here. Starting with C5 instead of going for the line we were talking about by taking on D5.
Yeah, okay. All right, interesting.
So H6 was kind of a random tempo to gain because I thought, well, if you take here, that's not good. You give me the bishop pair, and I'm still going to get E5.
Yeah.
So, but basically, like I said, I could have just gone for this right away even. And that's a good lesson just because... You know, you're going for this extension with instead of the minority attack structure, and you don't have any of the rewards. You don't even have a majority on the queen side, so it's not good to push there and relieve the center tension.
Yeah.
Okay, so I played H6. You went here, and then I go after the bishop pair, but now so now this was like I'm better. I've got the bishop pair. You've got double pawns. It's not ideal for you, but you like held with it and you had like clear plan. You were trying to remove my knight so that you could get the battery of the queen and the bishop. You
got wise to my ruse, huh?
Yeah,
It's not exactly advanced chess, but I did have a plan.
You did have a plan.
I want to get
right.
that queen on D3 for the record.
That's right.
And then once you made once I started thinking about the move of knight to E4, I was like, I have no idea how to remove that knight once he pushes that there.
Yeah, and it ended up being hard for the pawn. So
yeah.
So what to do? I mean, maybe the same idea, but moving this knight would have been better to D3 because you actually relieve the F pawn here. And so the difference is if I do some shenanigans and put the knight there, you can kick me out.
Okay, that makes sense.
And I didn't think about that till now as we were analyzing it, but in hindsight, I think that might have been better.
Either way, my E3 pawn was bound to be weak by the end game.
Right. So then, because of that, that pawn eventually is falling, and here's where, really, I mean, I think it should have been easier for me than it was, but you get credit for that. Like, you made it really hard. Queen H5 was sort of an awkward, annoying move, and I was like, all right, I could. That's
what I figured at the time. I was like, okay, this, if anything, it'll just be kind of annoying for him to have to think about that.
Yeah. And so I wasn't sure what to do. I decided to go for G5, which I felt good about because I thought I can re-secure the king side and kind of relocate people and get F5. But then I didn't have enough. And F4, I said, and I was like, he's risking it to get the biscuit here. This is big time. And I don't know that you saw that I could have gone for this check.
No.
And then if you move,
go back. I'm sorry. Reset the right there.
Yeah.
So this is when I pushed F5?
Yeah, well, you pushed F4, yeah, right here.
Oh, F4, yeah. Oh, yeah, I didn't even think about my pawn hanging. Wow. So why didn't you take it?
I was like daydreaming in this game or something, man. I don't know. I didn't take the pawn. I didn't take the rook. I felt like I was... Well, one thing that happens, I'll just say, is sometimes like when you're playing positions where you're better, it actually backfires because you get in this mode where you want the game to just convert itself. You want to just be on autopilot, and so every time your opponent
Yeah.
does something that lashes out or changes the position, you're a little slow to react. Is that an excuse for a player of my level? No. I mean, I should have, and I saw every one of these. I should have taken with check, and then after what I did, moving the rook instead, like I should have, which I played this, and then here I should have taken the rook, and I saw both, but I kept being like, no, I'm not going to do anything, and you'll see in the video later, I was just like, yeah, I'll just I'm not going to do anything and sit in the position, and then
It'll be fine.
right, that's basically what I was saying, and then all of a sudden you played knight f2, and I was like, oh crap, and I was under time pressure, and I was like, oh, I really let this one get away.
At this point, I was thinking the only way I'm going to win is if I win on time. But looking at the board, looking at our time controls around this time, we both had about a minute and a half. So
Right.
it was like I'm not going to win on time.
Yeah,
That
but
was
you
my
played
thought.
well. I mean, you did good there, and so I missed a couple of concrete ways to put the game away, starting with this and then starting with the rook. But all right, let's move on to 10-4, which is now I really need to be ready to play a little faster here.
I'm going to actually ask that we speed things up just a little bit here because I think this is going to have to be our last game. I have to get to a little bit of editing.
All right, let's go to 10-1. Let's do it.
I was going to say, yeah,
I'm going to bring my A game,
yeah.
and you try to beat me.
Okay.
Let's do it. 10-1, everybody, the grand finale.
Let's hold on. Let's make this interesting. I want to do 21. I want to give
21.
myself 20 minutes. Yeah.
All right, let's do it. I'm going to start the
Okay.
clock at 20 minutes apiece,
I'm
and
just,
then you'll...
I'm just throwing anything at the wall to see if it sticks because I just need to get one win on you.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna start the game.
Okay, I'm gonna move over here. Good luck, have fun, and I'll talk to you in a minute.
User left your channel.
All right, here we go. We're gonna start with this, and then we're gonna reset it. We're gonna do White's time to 1 minute. I have got to play fast. This is going to be fun. Let's do the advanced again, and this time we'll play some tricky shenanigans. Same shenanigans as we've done before, but just a little bit weirder. Little bit weirder. Title of my autobiography. I guess now I'll defend. Now that he's going to bring more, I wanted to play h4 first too, which I'm going to do now. Try to play h4 and h5. See if I can't get that counterplay on the king side before everything gets focused on the queen side. This is going to be tough. 1 minute, especially given the way the games have gone. I mean, he's played pretty well, so I'm going to pick up my A game here. I'm going to really focus here. No more daydreaming my way with no concrete calculation and letting him work his way out of bad positions. I have a small edge. I have the C file. I'm going to get castled on the king side. I'm going to put the rooks, double them on the C file, and then I'm going to see what happens, right? That's how the magic will be made. He's taking his time. He's taking his sweet time. Getting ready to pre-move here. Getting ready to pre-move. Want to use that C file. Might also want to play queen f4 and queen g4 and try to get an attack, huh? Could also be interesting. We'll see. I guess that's really too slow and kind of just some old, not very good chess moves. I think I just blundered a pawn. Yep, I just blundered a pawn. For pretty much nothing. Maybe not nothing, right? I'm going to play rook here. Let him give check if that's what he wants. Put the king on h2. If he doesn't, I'm going to play knight h4 and try to cash in. I think I might have more to this attack than I first thought. For this attack on the king side, I have knight h4, then I have queen to g4, and then I can move this knight and slide the rook over to g3. At least that's what I'm telling myself. It's tough. This is tough. 20 minutes to 1 minute. What am I going to do if he pushes the f pawn? Pray? No, I'm going to have to take it and then play queen g4 anyway. It's going to be risky. This is scary for him, though. I mean, this isn't easy to defend. So he goes there anyway. He wants to take. He wants to trade. I'm all in. I'm going for it. All right. He's committed. I'm committed. I was planning on moving the knight and sliding over to the king side anyway. Can I play rook takes g7, king takes, queen check? King moves to g8. I could take the knight there, actually. Oh, what was I doing? I had queen takes h6 there. Almost winning on the spot. I guess I still have it. And he's still coming under fire. If he plays knight c4, I want to play knight g4, but he takes and there's no mate. So that means I have to play queen g5 and let him trade off one of my good attackers. I'm not excited about that. I think he played the best move there. I'm going to pre-move the recapture, and I'm threatening h6. It's kind of the idea now. Threatening h6. And hopefully with it, a decent attack. He goes for it. I'm going to play h6 anyway. Got to, right? And then put the queen on f6. Takes with the king, he loses. Takes with the queen, I get f7. If he plays knight g8, I think I'm in trouble. That's the truth. If he plays knight g8, I'm going to go queen f2. And if he ever takes that pawn, I'm going to try to use the h-file against him. But if he plays knight g8, I can also play queen f4. Because if he takes with the queen, I still take there with check, and that's still pretty rough for him. And if knight g8, queen f4, if he takes with the knight, I can play rook over to the H file. Oh no, I just blundered. Oh no, I didn't. If he takes with the queen, that's right over H3. I already saw that. Okay. Coming into G5. That's where the magic is going to happen. It's on G5. That's why I put the queen on F4 instead of F3, for example, to keep that square open. Keep that square open for the king. Oop, I got him. I think this was winning regardless, but now I should be able to... I should have been able to win anyway with the mating attack. Yeah, I think it's over. I'm going to win the rook.
User joined your channel.
God damn it, Danny.
Oh man, that was close, dude. I was like, I was down on time. I was so down on time.
This is resignable, right? I mean,
Yeah, it is. You're losing the rook. And,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I can win with very little time. But okay, let's bring it up. Oops, wrong one there.
No, you guys, he'll explain why that was resignable in a moment here, but it's not looking great for me.
All right.
At the very least, you get a draw, maybe.
No, I mean at this point it is winning.
From this position, what do you do? So okay,
Okay,
I
well,
go back to.
I just invited you to the analysis board. You want to?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay. So we're in the final position.
Yeah.
You go back, and I'm winning the rook.
Yep. And then I just so if I go king to G7.
Right. I mean,
You
I take here, and I'm actually I'm still threatening forced mates. Like knight takes E6 is a threat.
I see. Yeah.
You can't move the knight because then queen takes F7 is mate in 2.
Yeah.
So there's literally like no moves here for black. And even with 10 seconds,
You could literally just push your A pawn all the way down. You could
Right,
just
there's-
gobble my pawns and then just march them all the way down.
there's no moves. I think what I'll do is take advantage of the fact that you're frozen. Like you make a pawn move, I go here. Again, if he ever moves the knight, everybody, to any square, it's just mate in 2, takes and takes. So he's stuck, so he makes another move. But now that I've improved the queen, now I do the trick where the pawn is pinned, and it's just like mate in 2.
Yeah.
So, okay, it was, if you don't blunder the rook, even after losing the queen, if you don't play knight here and allow me this idea, okay, then you still had a chance to flag me, for sure. In fact, right before you did that, I was nervous, because I was like sitting here with my mouse, you couldn't see it, like, touching my pieces. I'm like, what am I going to do? Because look, I have no square here, the knight guards it. I can't go here. In fact, even if I bring the other knight in, where's my threat? I'm not threatening anything. You have everybody guarded. So, okay, no mistake. I mean, black is lost here. White's winning. I'm up a queen. I can do a slow plan like e4 and slowly trade. But again,
I could still win on time in this.
Exactly. No, exactly.
Yeah.
The whole point of this is that unbiasedly the position was winning, but you might have won on time if you didn't play knight here because I don't have any concrete move. I have no threat. I can't enter here. The knight guards it. I can't enter here even with 2 pieces because the rook guards it. It's way too slow to try to come around.
I'm not seeing your moves again. It bugged out. Oh, there it is. Yep. Now it's back.
So I was saying, yeah. So again, if you just make another move, I can't enter here. I can't enter here. It's way too slow for me to try to do a plan that comes around. It's just too much with 10 seconds.
Yeah.
So I mean, I would have hoped for a blunder as you tried to flag me, or I would have lost on time. I mean, it's winning for white, but okay, I think you were even better earlier. Even if you don't blunder the queen, this is already super dangerous because this check is coming, right?
Yeah, I wasn't looking forward to it.
So it was already dangerous, but really I think the key moment was earlier because you let my attack get too strong when you let me go here. I was wondering, Okay,
I
like
just missed it. I just completely missed that.
But what's funny is even if you don't miss it, like it's hard to stop because if you move the king
Yeah.
off of the file, I
Then
win
you just
the F
gobble
pawn.
the F pawn, yeah.
So I think the only way to do it would have been to try to go here, which is just it just looks super scary, right?
It
Because
just looks terrifying. Yeah.
like I go here and it's like, oh crap, like how do you deal with this? If you move the pawn, I just break it open.
Would you just check with the knight right away and just force that trade and then push
I don't.
pawn
I
back?
probably wouldn't want to trade because I think that actually opens up the 7th rank for you to defend. So I think just going here, a simple like, hey, oops, sorry, rook f3, where'd it go? I think just going rook f3, right, is just really hard to deal with.
If by hard you mean impossible.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess it's just I didn't realize that, but in the game, I was thinking, oh, he blundered, he played queen d8, and he's giving me this, but then I realized, like, wait, he can't stop it anyway. That's why I just brought the knight in, because you couldn't stop the threat, right? If you move, I get this guy. If you, I didn't see rook f3 at the time. Like, in fact, maybe here, now that you have the queen there, maybe now knight e3 is a mistake, because if you go for this now, you can defend, and we still have a game. It's still scary as hell, right? Because I'm coming in, I'm taking, and it's, but
I thought about I thought about how that rook was really going to cause. As soon as that rook lifted up to c3, and I saw like the opening that was happening on your kingside attack, I was like, this isn't going to end well for me, because he's just gonna swing that over, and once he does that, he's just going to have all the pressure.
Well, probably the best thing to do in these positions is you want to avoid clarification moves. So moves like it's the hardest thing to do when your opponent's down on time, because you want to flag me, right?
Yeah.
So you think, oh, I got every move I make as one more chance to anti-flags. But I mean, of course, I was totally expecting this, and this actually, the fact that you waste that check now, like let's say you go here instead, or queen b6 instead. Now you're threatening to move things in trade, and guess what? If I make some stupid move, if I try to move the rook, you might like win because of the check.
Yeah.
So one of the things that's hard to do, but like as you like play more and more blitz, like the mature players almost never play the obvious forcing move. Instead, they leave it, and it makes your opponent crazy, because now just because I'm so worried about it, you know what I would do? I would voluntarily go here. Yeah. So you've literally gained like 2 moves.
Yeah, you gain a tempo there. Yeah,
right.
I like that.
So it's one thing just to remember in blitz, even if you're up on time, like try to avoid playing moves that are, we call them the forcing replies, the moves where you're giving me one reply. Well, okay, like it sounds good on one hand, but it's actually very easy for me to do.
Yeah.
So and you take away the chances that I blunder. The longer you leave somebody's king in a check, that's why if you go here, I would voluntarily go there, because I know I'm a human and I'm capable of blundering. So I'd be like, screw that. I'm just going to put my king over here.
What would you say was my first mistake in this game?
I think this one right here. I think you have played great up till now. I don't know that my attack is really winning. I think it's scary, but I think if you play queen here, and okay, like let's say I do what I did in the game. Like, okay, if I voluntarily go here, let's just see the tempos. If I'm really avoiding, you go here. Now you're like forcing me to trade, and guess what? I'm 2 moves. I'm behind. I'm not getting over here.
Yeah, I really wanted to get your pieces off the board and then just get in on time.
I mean, so what you did was you played. Why does it keep doing that? Stupid analysis board. You played queen to b1 check. Can you still see that?
Yeah.
So I go here, and then you go back. So this whole thing, you lost the tempo, because I think this move is useful for me, and you put the queen on a square that doesn't have enough threats. I think you should have, basically, I think you saw my attack coming, and you decided, okay, I got to get back. Instead, I think you should have just been all in. You should have been trying to just win on the queen side before I could mate you.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah.
Because again, if we already saw that if you had played voluntarily queen b4 here, and then you play knight a3 here, it's like, like I'm trading pieces. I mean, if I go here, like, you might even be able to like go queen for 2 rooks, and I have no chance of mating you. You've got all these pawns.
Yeah.
So I think if you had gone all in on the queen side, it would have been better business anyway. Maybe with best play, I still get some attacking chances, but like it definitely instinctively felt better to me the moment you gave this check. And the moment you started like backing up with the queen, I was happier, because I just knew that I was like, okay, well, even if I don't mate you, I'm going to be the one with all the pressure, even if I don't see a mate.
Yeah.
So, but otherwise,
interesting stuff.
Good stuff, man. And I had fun.
Yeah, me too, man. I appreciate you coming on. If people want to find you like on Twitter or social media, where can they?
Yeah, just like the username, Daniel Rensch, at Daniel Rensch on Twitter, at Daniel Rensch everywhere, pretty much. At YouTube.com/Daniel Rensch. That's where I'll put the video.
I mean, is
Pretty
there
much.
Are there any underscores or anything, or is it just
No,
your name
just
there?
just Daniel Rensch.
Daniel. And that's RENSCH.
Yep.
There you go.
YouTube/Daniel Rensch, Twitter, but really the chess.com channel. I mean, it's my company. I'm one of the owners, so for years, YouTube/chess. That was where I posted everything. But these days, we're trying to kind of expand content a little bit, so you can just.
Yeah.
All right, man. But we got to do this again. That was fun.
Yeah, on a personal note, I want to say I've been using chess.com since I started on Yahoo Chess. Do you remember that being a thing?
We all did.
Yahoo
Right.
And then, which was cool for the time. It was like, you got a rating and it was free and all that. But then as soon as chess.com came around, I haven't used any other site since. And
Well, I appreciate
dig
that.
The analysis tool in particular lately has been really helping me find my mistakes early on, because I feel like I make more mistakes in the opening than, it's the more noticeable mistakes, because when a game collapses after like 7 moves, you're like, okay, clearly my opening needs some work.
Right.
And it's been helping me out with that. So yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on. Let me know if you ever want to do this again, because I'm down. And,
all right, man.
Well, we'll watching here.
We'll
watching.
We'll find each other. We'll see each other. We'll do it again.
Okay, good talk, man. I will talk to you soon, and thanks again for coming on.
All right, man. Peace.
GG's.
User disconnected from your channel.